We are currently in the process of procuring relevant equipment. That summarizes the key points I needed to report to you. Wang Tao paused, having completed his report. All right, you go prepare at the hospital. I'll be there shortly. Sure. Wang Tao stepped out, while Dongfang picked up the box on the table. He then noticed that the phone's packaging design was extremely simple. Aside from the logo on the front, there was only a label on the side, briefly describing the phone's color, model, and storage capacity. Dongfang glanced at it. RAM, 36 gigabytes. ROM, 2T. Not bad. It demonstrates the performance of the new generation graphene chip. Its opening method is also quite unique. It splits open from the middle. Due to the small magnets installed at the joint, it requires a bit of force to pull apart. Once the box was opened, the first thing that caught the eye was a drawing, an image provided by Dongfang for the starship colonization era, making the scene quite eye-catching. Of course, this is just a normal situation for the people of the blue planet. The eastern side would not pause at all. He casually lifted the image, which was different from what he had imagined. Inside was just a transparent glass panel. When the eastern person gently picked it up, he noticed something different. It turned out that at the very bottom of the glass panel, there was a piece of metal. It had the logo of a certain company printed on it, along with a physical button. Oh, so that's how it is. He saw a protective film attached on top that introduced its functions. It dawned on him that with the company's current technological reserves, a fully transparent communicator was still a bit challenging. However, due to the clever design of the packaging, it gave the illusion of being fully transparent, which was already impressive enough. He could envision its explosive sales once it hit the market. This little gadget is quite remarkable. Pressing the physical button, the glass panel turned into a black background. The logo slowly appeared and then disappeared. 1 second later, the phone had completed its startup. The software opened with remarkable speed, truly achieving instant access. He would use this phone from now on. The eastern person chuckled and inserted his SIM card. Just as he finished, there was a knock at the door. Chairman, it's already 240 minutes past. According to the schedule, you should head to the hospital site now. The vehicle is waiting downstairs. The vehicle was not slow either. It took only 5 minutes for him to arrive at the hospital's entrance. This was also the place where the foundation stone was laid last time. It had been decorated festively, with colorful ribbons and flags fluttering. Various flower baskets filled the entrance. Many staff members were hanging banners above the door. From the car, he could see 2 banners that had already been hung, Skilled Hands in the Apricot Grove. Benefiting the people, Zhao Jinyu presents, and warm congratulations on the grand opening of the Tumor Hospital Park Management Committee. Brother Zhao, the eastern person felt a surge of emotions. Not expecting this. In front of the outpatient building of the hospital, there was already a sea of people. He was somewhat surprised. Aside from the staff in white coats and nurses, there were many people in casual clothing. However, there was no time to ponder that. As a row of red flag cars drove into the hospital gate, with his keen eyesight, he immediately saw Zhao Jinyu getting out of the car. How do you like the banner I sent? Zhao Jinyu laughed heartily upon seeing the eastern person enter and extended his hand. Brother, is this convenient for you? The eastern person felt a bit surprised. Zhao Jinyu had actually presented such a grand gift without considering the special identity of an elderly figure, which he hadn't anticipated. It's fine. I've already consulted the elder. He doesn't mind, as long as you don't use his name for deceit. These were his exact words. Rest assured, brother. The two firmly shook hands, revealing the eastern person's slightly excited emotions at that moment. Chapter 206. A flood of people since Zhao Jinyu had arrived. All the leaders from the local government naturally would not be absent. Everyone lined up neatly, with Dongfang and Zhao Jinyu standing in the center. Gao Yuan was the host for today's event, dressed in his signature Zhongshan suit, standing on the far left of the crowd. In front of him was a small podium with a microphone on it. Dear friends, leaders, and family members of patients who have come here today. On behalf of the company, I am honored to host today's opening ceremony. First, I would like to warmly welcome everyone's presence on behalf of the group company. Secondly, I would like to thank the patients who have come here for their trust in us. Without further ado, let us invite Chairman Dongfang to give a speech. A warm round of applause erupted and continued for a full 2 minutes before it finally subsided. This was something Dongfang had not anticipated. He felt quite gratified, realizing that the achievements of the company over the past 2 years had indeed been recognized by everyone. This time, he was opening a cancer hospital, which, according to the company's tradition, aimed to tackle challenging global issues. Of course, there were also some attendees who were introduced by other patients. They had participated in clinical trials for a specific treatment and had returned home to recuperate. Naturally, those free from suffering would fervently recommend the hospital to those still facing life and death pressures, which explained why some attendees were dressed casually. Everyone, welcome, and thank you for your trust. To be honest, I did not expect such a large turnout today. The purpose of this celebration is not only to witness the completion of the hospital, but also to promote our services. Just think about it. Even the local leaders are attending our celebration, so the local media will have to cover us, right? Laughter erupted from the audience. They were surprised that this high-profile boss spoke so candidly. Actually, I personally hope there wouldn't be any patients here today. It would be better if there were none at all. The purpose of promotion is to provide hope for patients and their families. I also hope everyone can spread the word so that more people know about our treatment technology. That is all for my speech. Thank you again for your support. Another round of warm applause followed. Next, Zhao Jinyu, along with local government and committee leaders, delivered their speeches in turn. The opening ceremony concluded smoothly. Fenger, I've pushed aside all my work today. We must celebrate properly. 1. To express gratitude. 2. For brotherhood. Zhao Jinyu, sitting in the shuttle bus, set aside his usual nonchalant demeanor and showed genuine emotion. No problem. Brother Yu, let us drink freely today. That night, a grand banquet was held at the company's restaurant. Zhao Jinyu and several government leaders drank to the point of inebriation, losing all sense of reason. Returning to the hospital, Mu Yuan was a clerk in the office of the cancer hospital under the group. He was a graduate of the Chinese department of Yan'an University. In the autumn of 2022, he had just graduated, and his home was in Yan'an. His parents hoped he would apply for a public sector job or work locally. The difficulty of passing the civil service exam was quite high. By December, Mu Yuan had taken the exam twice, but missed the interview by a narrow margin both times. Just when he was feeling anxious, the environmental group announced a recruitment notice. The salary was high, the benefits were good, and it was very close to home, so he immediately applied. Since the hospital had just been established, there were many positions available. He successfully joined the hospital, but due to a lack of work experience, he could only work as a clerk, handling document drafting, meeting preparations, communication, and phone answering. This morning, he attended the opening ceremony as a hospital employee and made a very good impression on the big boss of the group company. He secretly resolved to settle down in the environmental group. As soon as he started work in the afternoon, he became busy establishing work systems and learning about the hospital's relevant knowledge. Fully immersed in his work, the phone rang at just 2:31 p.m. Hello, Environmental Oncology Hospital. Hello, Uncle, a slightly childish voice came through. It was a girl. Hello, how can I help you? Mu Yuan's voice softened. He always had enough patience for children. Uncle, I am a relative of a patient, and I want to ask if the treatment costs at our hospital are high. The girl's voice sounded a bit anxious. Can our hospital really cure cancer? There was a hint of uncertainty in her words. The costs are a bit high. Completing all treatment courses will cost about 200,000 yuan. However, the cure rate is above 95. Mu Yuan was clearly very familiar with the business and immediately explained the situation. Then can we get reimbursement? Mu Yuan understood what the girl meant. Of course, it is covered by medical insurance. The personal cost is about 30. He asked gently, is your family member ill? Yes. My dad. The girl's voice trembled as she spoke. He has liver cancer, and our family is from the countryside. We really can't afford such high expenses. Plus, my brother and I are still in school. I see. How old are you this year? I'm already 17. By the way, Uncle, you go ahead and be busy. I'm borrowing my classmate's phone, so I can't talk too much. I'll call you back later using my dad's phone, okay? Goodbye, Uncle. You can call me anytime. Goodbye. They say that poor children grow up fast. A 17-year-old was so understanding, which made Mu Yuan feel a bit heartbroken. However, this was a private hospital, so he didn't know what to say. But an idea popped into his mind. Could a medical assistance fund be established? Just as he was thinking about this, the second call came in, similar to the first girl's inquiry, asking about costs and treatment effectiveness. At that moment, the phone of a colleague across the room rang. And soon, the phones of everyone in the large office started ringing. For the entire afternoon, Mu Yuan spent his time answering calls, explaining situations, and taking more calls. Naturally, like him, by the end of the day, everyone's voices were hoarse. As Mu Yuan dragged his tired body out of the office, he realized why the company had arranged for more than 20 people in an office at a hospital. Such a number was indeed not too many. Considering that over 3 million new cancer patients are added each year in the region, Mu Yuan foresaw the future focus of his work. Endless phone calls. He let out a bitter smile and returned home. The next day, he hurried to the office early. Although he was tired, he wanted to explain things to the patients. After all, as the old saying goes, saving a life is more valuable than building a 7-story pagoda. However, when he arrived at the hospital entrance, he was speechless at the scene before him. The entrance was packed with people, a sea of dark figures. They couldn't even enter the outpatient building, and it wasn't even time for work yet. Wow, they really came in droves, Mu Yuan silently complained before joining the crowd management efforts. Since the second day after the hospital opened, everyone at the oncology hospital had not experienced a single day of leisure. Chapter 207, Tokamak, thanks to Xian E Accessories, 39754288. And Su Kuan for the bitter melon steamed bun. A month later, just 1 month after the hospital celebration, Dongfang had finished breakfast early in the company cafeteria. He walked quickly and soon reached the transport vehicle, taking a seat. He was headed to the high-energy physics laboratory. The driver of the transport vehicle responded decisively, and the vehicle slid out of the parking space. Before long, Dongfang arrived at a newly completed building. Chairman, good morning. A middle-aged man with messy hair resembling a bird's nest also got off the transport vehicle. He saw Dongfang get out and hurried a few steps to stand in front of the big boss. Dongfang nodded, looking at the middle-aged man. Wu Xiaoming, California Institute of Technology. He specialized in physics and returned to work at the High Energy Physics Research Institute. The reason he appeared here was quite special. He was originally the head of a high-energy physics laboratory in the region, and barring any unforeseen circumstances, he would have worked there until retirement. However, a turning point came due to his child. After working for a long time in a radiation-exposed area, his daughter was born healthy and lively. But fate can be cruel. He had a perfect family, a lovely wife, and a little girl. Life and work were perfect until he faced his first setback. His 2-year-old daughter was diagnosed with neuroblastoma, a type of cancer that easily occurs in children under 15 years old. It originates from embryonic tissue and is known as the king of children's cancers. Around the age of 2, the most common origin is from the retroperitoneal adrenal gland, which is highly prone to metastasis, especially to the bone marrow and craniofacial skeleton. Main symptoms include fever, anemia, and bone pain. Neuroblastoma tumor cells are highly malignant, but have the potential for natural differentiation or differentiation into low-grade malignancy under chemotherapy. In some cases, those who develop it in infancy can even achieve spontaneous remission. Therefore, some neuroblastomas in infants do not require treatment. Most infants under 18 months show better treatment outcomes, while older children with neuroblastoma generally have a poorer prognosis. However, due to being too busy with work, he was not attentive enough to his daughter's condition, resulting in her illness surpassing the optimal treatment window. Watching his child suffer from daily bone pain and his wife in tears, his heart ached, and he couldn't sleep at night. His work became chaotic, and he often lost focus. With his daughter's condition worsening, he had no choice but to take leave to care for her in the hospital alongside his wife. Complaints from his leaders and colleagues increased. After all, his expertise was exceptional, and his responsibilities were irreplaceable. This led to slow progress in research work, even stagnation. The frustrated leader had a talk with him, stating he needed to either return to work or resign to make way for someone else. To prioritize his daughter's health, he resolutely quit his job, focusing entirely on her care. However, the family lost their source of income, leading to a dire economic situation. As the saying goes, after hardship comes ease. During his daughter's hospitalization, a clinical trial volunteer recruitment was announced by a certain group. His understanding of this group was different from most. Each initiative they undertook was groundbreaking, capturing widespread attention, whether it was in human-computer interaction, graphene batteries, or high-precision machine tools, each a breakthrough desired by many. Despite opposition from his parents and wife, he firmly registered his daughter for the trial. Fortunately, due to some patients' hesitations, his daughter was successfully selected. After a month of treatment, all metastases in his daughter had disappeared. PET-CT scans showed that the primary lesion had recovered to be identical to that of normal children. Aside from some weight loss, his daughter returned to her lively self. The fortunate turn of events came both suddenly and unexpectedly. By chance, he met Zhang Chang, who was there to check on patient conditions. During their conversation, Zhang learned about the researcher's predicament and happened to know about the preparation of a high-energy physics laboratory. So, he recommended this senior talent to Gao Yuan. At the same time, he was considering his next career move, wanting to earn more to provide a better life for his daughter. They hit it off immediately. Unsurprisingly, he was recognized and accepted by Dongfang and Gao Yuan, taking on the role of head of the High Energy Physics Research Institute. Since the establishment of the laboratory, he has been tirelessly dedicated to research, partly to repay the gratitude of the Earth Ring Group, and partly for his substantial annual salary. This is why Dongfang witnessed his disheveled appearance. Comrade Wu Xiaoming, while it's important to focus on research, you also need to take care of your health. After all, it is the foundation of your life. Dongfang has an indescribable fondness for this middle-aged man who is fully committed to his work. Coming from humble beginnings, he has defied the odds and emerged from the mountains with his skills. He willingly gave up a comfortable job for the sake of his family, showing great loyalty and affection. Thus, he couldn't help but express his admiration for this capable individual who treats the company like his own home. Chairman, the experiment has reached a critical moment. I can't let it go. I can't let you down. Wu Xiaoming said decisively, patting his chest firmly. I know my body. There are no issues. That's good to hear, but still, make sure to rest more. Understood. After this exchange, the two smiled at each other and walked towards the brand new laboratory. Old Wu, are there any recent challenges? Let's discuss them together. 3 heads are better than 1. Dongfang took the initiative to inquire about the research progress. Wu Xiaoming scratched his head, pondering for a moment before responding. Following the research direction you initially set, we have primarily focused on thermonuclear fusion. The technical difficulty of laser confinement, inertial confinement, fusion, like the domestic and international projects, is quite high, as these are typically handled by national teams. Therefore, after repeated discussions, we determined a further research direction, which is magnetic confinement fusion. With the strong support of our colleagues, we have validated various confinement methods such as tokamaks, stellarators, magnetic mirrors, reverse fields, and spherical coils. Ultimately, we decided to concentrate on tokamaks, including components like magnetic fields, toroidal and poloidal, vacuum chambers, and their pumping systems, power systems, control systems, device control, and plasma control, heating and current drive systems, neutral beams and microwaves, gas injection and pellet injection systems, diagnostic and data collection and processing systems, tritium systems, radiation protection systems, as well as remote operation and maintenance systems. We have completed preliminary research work, but we have encountered a significant challenge: materials, specifically ultra-high temperature materials for deuterium and tritium fusion. We currently have no progress on this front. As they spoke, the two arrived in the vast underground laboratory. A 10-meter tall reactor was placed in the center, completely enclosed, surrounded by a maze of pipes and wires. A thick pipe in the middle drew the most attention. Our ignition time doesn't even reach 1 second. The gap is quite large. The head of the high-energy physics laboratory lowered his head, seemingly dissatisfied with the progress, because the chairman provided him with the best experimental equipment, supercomputers, and ample funding. However, the experiments still failed to achieve breakthrough progress, and he felt like a failure. Chairman, I'm sorry. After a long silence, Wu Xiangming noticed that Dongfang had no response and took the initiative to admit his mistakes. What mistakes? Dongfang, who was closely observing the reactor, stood up and looked at the middle-aged man with an apologetic expression, somewhat surprised. I haven't achieved any substantial results, and I'm sorry for your trust. Dongfang was just seriously observing the reactor and hadn't really heard what he said. Upon hearing Wu Xiangming's words, he immediately laughed. What are you talking about? In such a short time, you've achieved good results. What is there to be sorry for? You equipped the research institute with a supercomputer, which even surpasses those used by national teams, and we also have a large team of 400 people supporting us. Actually, with the supercomputer, our simulation can achieve controllability within 100 seconds, but during the experiment, we only managed to reach ignition at 540,000 degrees. Well, that is pretty good. At least you've taken a solid step forward, right? Dongfang said with a smile, showing no signs of anger. The breakthrough from 0 to 1 has never been easy. Come on, Wu Xiangming, let us go take a look at the computer simulation experiment. Okay. Seeing that his boss held no grievances, Wu Xiangming quickly adjusted his mindset and headed toward the supercomputer located in another room. 2 minutes later, they arrived in a room with a giant screen. Dongfang didn't stop, but opened a small door next to the screen and peered inside. The room contained a glass-constructed house, where countless processors could be seen, their indicator lights flashing constantly, and a wave of heat hit them. Dongfang nodded, closed the door, and stepped back out. Chairman, this is our latest technology, the supercomputer Lightning No. 1, helped by General Zhang Chang. Its computing speed can reach over 50 billion operations per second, truly the best in our region. Wu Xiangming followed Dongfang, quietly introducing their supercomputer. According to the company's confidentiality policy, Lightning No. 1 had not yet been announced to the outside world. Very good. Tell Zhang Chang that we'll announce it after the next generation of supercomputers is released. Dongfang nodded and instructed Wu Xiangming. Understood. Enough small talk. Let us first take a look at the magnets, vacuum chamber, and its pumping system, as well as the computer simulation of the remote control system. All right. Please wait a moment. Wu Xiangming nodded and walked over to the 2 staff members sitting in front of the large screen, quietly instructing them. They were very familiar with their tasks, so Dongfang didn't have to wait long. The large screen displayed the reactor they had just seen in the adjacent room, identical in every detail. As the scene shifted, the reactor gradually magnified, revealing a 3D diagram of the internal structure of the tokamak device. Chairman, look. This is the internal structure of our Starlight project. It mainly consists of the iron core, toroidal coils, central solenoid, vacuum chamber, and poloidal field coils, Wu Xiaoming explained patiently, assuming that the boss did not understand the details. As he introduced each component, they were displayed one by one, ultimately focusing on the central vacuum annular chamber. You see, it's because of the materials here. Wu Xiaoming pointed to the metal plates welded together. During our simulation tests, due to insufficient understanding of the materials, we thought that as long as there was a vacuum chamber for protection, high temperatures would not affect the metal plates at all. He paused, turning to look at his boss, seemingly wanting to confirm whether the chairman understood his explanation. Dongfang did not speak, merely blinking and gesturing for him to continue. So, during the simulation tests, our progress was quite good. Wu Xiangming turned his head and patted a staff member on the shoulder. based on the data from the first test. Let's simulate it again. The staff member nodded and quickly began typing on the keyboard. The screen zoomed out, and fuel was fed into the chamber. We are using isotopes of hydrogen, deuterium, and tritium as fuel. Simply put, we utilize extremely high temperatures to collide deuterium and tritium nuclei, resulting in a fusion reaction that generates a helium nucleus, thus releasing tremendous energy. What about the ignition method? Dongfang finally spoke. Wu Xiangming was astonished. He did not expect the chairman to truly understand. Moreover, he asked such a question, which was not something a non-professional could easily inquire about. However, despite his surprise, he knew he had to answer the boss's question. So he replied earnestly. We use fusion lasers to emit 192 beams of laser with a wavelength of 351 nanometers, totaling 18 megajoules of energy. This meets the ignition requirement, which is a temperature of 540,000 degrees Celsius. But Chairman, you actually understand thermonuclear fusion? I know a bit. Dongfang smiled, and in the astonished gaze of the two staff members, he gestured with his lips. Continue. All right. You two carry out all the experimental steps. Okay, Director. The two turned back and continued typing on the keyboard. The simulation test at that time was very successful. We concluded that the discharge time for controllable high-temperature plasma could approach 3 seconds, and after fusion, we could achieve a current of 200 kiloamperes. As Wu Xiangming spoke, his face flushed with excitement, and his voice unconsciously rose. All the colleagues cheered joyfully, their minds filled with the idea of constructing a verification machine. With strong logistical support from the group, we completed the construction of Starlight in just 1 month. I still remember that day when everyone confidently gathered in the basement, and the experiments were proceeding in an orderly manner. Fuel was added, lasers were fired. Everyone was waiting to witness a miraculous moment. But the next moment, reality dealt us a heavy blow. Wu Xiangming's voice grew somber again, filled with an indescribable sense of loss. The 540,000 degree temperature triggered an alarm from the metal casing. The fusion reaction hadn't even completed ignition. In less than a second, I was just bragging. Was it just a material issue? Have you revalidated the entire system? Dongfang frowned. Blindly conducting experiments was not a good habit. Chapter 209. 100 seconds. Of course, the other components of the system had all been validated. It was certain that as long as the insulation materials passed, the controllable fusion time could exceed 5 seconds. This would be a groundbreaking advancement. Dongfang subtly nodded, modifying the data of the vacuum chamber's metal material to infinity while leaving the other system data unchanged. Simulate the experiment completely again. I want to see if there are any other issues. Understood. The two staff members responded in unison. Wu Xiangming opened his mouth but hesitated. He was inwardly skeptical. Didn't he, the chairman, understand? What material could withstand infinitely high temperatures? If there were, it would be in a dream. But he ultimately kept quiet, as this was also a final test for the other components of the tokamak system. Before long, the staff completed all their work and turned to look at Dongfang. Chairman, all data corrections are complete. Shall we start the simulation? Go ahead. Dongfang said expressionlessly. The simulation experiment began again, and this time no one spoke. Everyone was intently focused on the experimental process displayed on the large screen. It was still the familiar preparation phase, followed by loading fuel into the furnace. And then a laser shot was fired. A small fireball appeared before everyone's eyes. The reactor was operating normally, and ignition was successful. As the slightly plump staff member on the right finished speaking, the small fireball suddenly emitted a blinding orange light. The fireball transformed into a sphere. The current reaction time was 10 seconds, high-temperature plasma discharge was normal, and the data showed a discharge of 900 kiloamperes. The slightly chubby young man couldn't contain his excitement, his voice rising in pitch. When he turned to see Dongfang's expressionless face, his voice gradually lowered. The reactor was operating normally. Dongfang looked at the young man with a hint of resentment in his eyes, almost breaking his composure with laughter. Haha, this kid. Dongfang chuckled inwardly and turned his attention back to the large screen. As he expected, the challenge of controllable nuclear fusion lay in the materials. If breakthroughs in high-temperature materials are achieved, all countries on this planet will be able to realize the application of thermonuclear fusion. However, when it comes to cold fusion, things look bleak, as it is seen as a mere joke by the inhabitants of this world, with no real possibility of realization. Time has exceeded 100 seconds. Amazing, the man exclaimed, but before he could finish, he instinctively lowered his voice. Fantastic. Truly wonderful. Our main challenge is indeed materials. As long as the materials are viable, fusion is not a problem. Just as he finished speaking, another male voice chimed in, revealing his ecstatic joy, followed by a hearty laugh. Looking towards the east, two staff members turned their heads. Wu Xiangming completely forgot he was in the laboratory. The moment he realized that a long-standing problem had been solved, overwhelming joy surged in his heart. Why hadn't he thought of testing the operation states of other components with infinite values? His thinking had been too rigid, too cautious in his research explorations, never daring to go beyond the established boundaries. He would only proceed to the next step once he was 100% sure of a result. Suddenly, he felt as if he had aged. However, as an experienced researcher, he quickly regained control of his emotions. What he wanted was to achieve fusion control in reality. After all, simulation experiments were just simulations. No matter what, this boss was indeed impressive, quick-witted and unconfined by rigid thoughts. If only he could be a researcher. Perhaps together with this young boss, they could achieve results in material science. Wu Xiangming's thoughts were racing, while to the two staff members, their leader seemed strange, laughing one moment, then furrowing his brow in seriousness, and then showing a whimsical expression. How odd, they thought, and he's already middle-aged, yet so unrefined. Just as the three were lost in their thoughts, the voice from the east came through. All right, breaking the 100-second mark has significance. Let's end the simulation experiment here. We shouldn't occupy too much computing power. We should leave some resources for our other brother units. Understood, Chairman. The staff quickly closed the simulation software, and the screen returned to its initial state. Only then did Wu Xiangming regain his composure. He was filled with admiration for his young chairman. Initially, he respected this leader for his character, but he had underestimated his knowledge, thinking little of both Dongfang and Gao Yuan. However, from this moment on, he no longer dared to underestimate them in the slightest. He approached Dongfang with utmost respect. Chairman, you truly are my role model. I will certainly learn from you in my future work. Dongfang waved his hand. I just dare to think a little. So, did it inspire you in your materials research? My research on materials is ultimately lacking in some areas. However, you can rest assured that I will travel across the country to see if any material laboratories have similar reserves. At the same time, I plan to bring in talent in the field of materials to conduct research, taking a dual approach. However, this may take some time. The idea is good, but let's hold off on developing it ourselves for now. The material laboratory, led by Wang Chun, is already tackling the issue. So you should also visit other domestic material laboratories to see if there are any unexpected discoveries. All right, Wu Xiangming had no objections, nodding vigorously. Fine, you focus on your work. I'm going to check on Wang Chun. Dongfang didn't wait for him to respond, shook his trench coat, and turned to leave. At the entrance of the high-energy physics laboratory, the bodyguards had already been waiting there, sitting motionless in the internal transport vehicle of the group. They didn't even budge. Aren't you two a bit too dull? Can't you get up and move around? Dongfang looked at the two burly men, growing more irritated. After saying this, he got into the transport vehicle. Nova, these two big guys are really starting to annoy me. Can you get me two bodyguards with a more appealing appearance? Adjust the AI to be a bit more responsive, preferably liquid robots. That way, haha. Understood, Captain. It seems you have really matured. Nova revealed a knowing smile, looking meaningfully at the camera. What? Amidst the banter, Dongfang arrived at the entrance of the physics laboratory. The laboratory was completely different from the other subsidiaries of the group. There was not a single person at the entrance. Dongfang walked up the steps and glanced inside, only to find the hall filled with people, with Wang Chun sitting in the middle. He held a thin electronic display screen with many words on it. This is the formula provided by the boss, but I've tried it over 50 times and still haven't achieved any results. Everyone, let's brainstorm together to see how we can manufacture this material. Chapter 210. Let us cook first. Seeing this situation, Dongfang did not rush to enter. Instead, he stopped at the entrance, wanting to see the results of their discussion. Boss Wang, could you let everyone take a look at the formula? Your electronic screen is a bit small, and your hand keeps moving, so I can't see it clearly. One person, wearing glasses as thick as the bottom of a glass bottle and sporting a scraggly beard, exclaimed loudly, making it hard to tell his age. Dongfang then realized that the hall, originally renovated for everyone to rest, was indeed filled with people, but they either had bushy beards or messy hair. Clearly not having returned to their assigned housing, it seems that setting up a lounge for them in the laboratory was a wise choice. A roar of laughter erupted from the researchers. Wang Chun himself also laughed, completely immersed in the formula and forgetting to show it to everyone. Don't laugh. Wait until I project it onto the big screen. Dongfang discovered that they had installed an oversized, ultra-thin display screen in the hall. If it weren't for Wang Chun turning it on, Dongfang would have thought it was a decorative painting. The white powder that could be obtained by mixing flour, salt, sugar, olive oil, eggs, rice, and beef after milling, and then heating to a high temperature of 220 degrees, followed by natural cooling. After projecting the formula onto the big screen, Wang Chun said, because the chairman said that while we know the required raw materials, the proportions of these materials are unknown. We need a large amount of testing to determine their ratios before we can produce the product. Dongfang smiled, waiting for everyone to laugh again. Unfortunately, there was no laughter. Everyone frowned and fell into deep thought. The impression Dongfang left on them was too profound for them to even consider that the formula was fake. Moreover, someone was murmuring softly, I saw a news article a long time ago about a super insulating material, touted as a gift from an alien source called Stardust. Could it be that the boss is referring to this material? The researcher sitting nearby heard the murmuring and replied, "You're probably right. I also think it resembles stardust. But can this super extraordinary material really be made from these food items? I have my doubts." At that moment, Wang Chen clapped his hands, drawing everyone's attention. I know that science must be based on verification, so everyone might be wondering, is this a prank by the boss? I can tell you it's not, because I actually asked the boss that ridiculous question. Amidst the laughter, Wang Chen shrugged. Look, I've made everyone laugh again. When the boss gave me this formula, I was completely bewildered and blurted out, "Are we eating this today?" The atmosphere in the hall became even more joyful, and Dongfang could tell that Wang Chen was deliberately lightening the mood. The researchers were immersed in their own world, completely neglecting their health, and as a responsible person, Wang Chen felt obligated to pay attention to their safety. Therefore, over the past 6 months, he often made a fool of himself and organized activities. Firstly, to give everyone some time to move around, and secondly, to strengthen team bonding for better collaboration. Clearly, he achieved the desired effect, as laughter erupted once more. The boss was also caught off guard by my question and asked, "Did you not eat breakfast this morning? What made you think of that?" I replied that I wasn't full. The boss laughed heartily and then said, "No, this is a formula for a super insulating material, and I'm not joking with you. You have a month to make some progress." So, after the boss left, I began the experiments. Perhaps it was the talent of the people from my country, but at the start of the experiment, I couldn't help but make fried rice, noodles, and bread in the lab. There are still delicious steamed eggs. I've gained 5 pounds this month, but the experiment is still not making much progress. They all get cooked as soon as they are heated. Wang Chen, you little rascal. I was wondering why I kept smelling the aroma of food recently. I thought there was something wrong with my sense of smell. I also want to try making fried rice in the lab. Fried rice from a centrifuge must be perfectly separated. The guy who spoke first opened his mouth again, as if he had discovered a new world. His eyes sparkled with excitement. Right, and a laser projector for frying eggs. Another round of laughter erupted. Dongfang couldn't help but laugh as well. Seeing these comrades made him feel like they had strayed far from the main topic. He figured he shouldn't wait any longer and pushed the door open to enter. "Chairman, you're here. Why didn't you give us a heads up?" Standing in the middle of the hall, he first spotted his boss. Wang Chen felt a bit awkward. Originally, he intended to amuse everyone for his own purposes, but unexpectedly, his big boss saw him. That felt a bit awkward. What is there to greet about? We're all on the same team. No need for formalities. What are you all doing? Dongfang looked at Wang Chen with a smile. "Chairman, we are having a consultation. The problem you gave us is really unsolvable." He scratched his almost scalp-tight short hair, a hint of redness appearing on his face. The young man who had been speaking nonstop was now silent, nervously touching his hair, wondering whether his boss had heard what he said. Then he saw his boss give him a meaningful glance. I'm doomed. Chairman, please don't fire me. I was wrong." Just as he was adding drama to his own situation, Dongfang chuckled and asked, "So have you come up with any results? Any progress?" We are discussing. Wang Chen, frustrated, pinched his thigh. His boss definitely heard him talking about fried rice. So there's no result yet? Wang Chen changed his usual demeanor and became concise. "Then I'll join in. Let us discuss together." Seeing the stubbornness of this kid, Dongfang sat down in a seat vacated by a researcher. His eyes fixed on the man standing in the middle. Let us continue our discussion. I believe the ratio of rice to eggs should be 9:1. And of course, we also need some cooking oil and salt. Their ratio should be around 0:1 o'clock, 5, and finally, a bit of chopped green onions. What do you all think? The laughter erupted again. Dongfang couldn't help but smile. "Boss, I really can't keep this up. I got a bit off topic. We are discussing fried rice, and I am powerless regarding the formula you gave us." Seeing his boss laugh, Wang Chen finally had the courage to speak up about the situation. "We need your strong support." Chapter 211. Failure, all failures. "You rascal." Dongfang stood up and patted him on the shoulder. "It's okay. I understand your struggles." He didn't blame you. The key is that this material completely surpasses the understanding of people from Blue Planet, so I can understand your thoughts. After saying that, he raised his voice. "Comrades, I have no intention of blaming anyone. What I need is for everyone to maintain this healthy and happy lifestyle. You are all hired by me, and if anything happens to you, it would be irresponsible on my part. Do you understand? Do you hear me?" After a hearty laugh, everyone replied in unison. "That's good. Since you haven't been working in the lab today, I'll give you all a break. Go out and have fun for 2 days. No one is to work, it's a paid holiday." "Oh no, the chairman can't let go. We all have experiments in progress." Yes. My graphene imitation material has reached a breakthrough point. If it weren't for Mr. Wang calling me, I would definitely have results by now." Exactly. My third-generation battery has hit a critical stage. Conversations like this erupted among the crowd, turning the hall into a bustling marketplace. This was, in fact, expected by Dongfang, but he didn't anticipate that everyone would react the same way. This can't go on. Research is important, but health must also be prioritized. So he raised his voice again. No, except for those at a breakthrough stage in their experiments. Everyone else is on leave. Otherwise, I'll dismiss you. Wang Chun, you know the experiment progress best. You're in charge of supervision. Yes, Chairman. Seeing that Dongfang had everything arranged properly, they stopped resisting. Most of them took off their lab coats and walked back to the lounge with sighs. As they exited the door, they looked back 3 times before heading home. Wang Chun, you can't take a break. You need to stay with me for the experiment. It's unacceptable that there has been no progress on the material after all this time. Wang Chun's face lit up with a smile. He didn't want a holiday. Research was his true passion. Otherwise, he wouldn't still be single. Moreover, he was working with the big boss he admired the most. That was something he wouldn't trade for anything. Looking at Wang Chun's silly grin, Dongfang shook his head helplessly. Let us go. Don't just stand there. Let us try to make some progress in the next 2 days. Let us go. I'll lead the way. Wang Chun immediately stepped forward, striding toward the elevator. Boss, please don't blame me. When I saw the list you gave me, my imagination just got stuck in a loop. One moment it's fried rice. The next it's oil-splashed noodles. I simply can't settle down. Wang Chun pointed at the experimental table filled with ingredients, looking distressed. I've used this amount of ingredients 5 times already. Of course, I was just joking with everyone earlier. Aside from making fried rice once, everything else has been tested. But apart from the residue, I haven't gained anything useful. Dongfang nodded without saying a word. In fact, he wasn't sure himself. The list of materials was provided to him by Nova. It was the famous Stardust list, extracted from the memories of the daughter of Stardust's inventor. Because she was quite young at that time, she could only recognize the types of ingredients in her father's powdering process. Besides that, she knew nothing else. However, having a list of materials greatly reduced the difficulty of the experiment. It was just a matter of a lot of trial and error, thanks to Wang Chun's initial efforts. They should be close to the truth. There's no need to say more. Let's try it first. With the plan set, Dongfang put on gloves. He walked to the experiment table and picked up a potato. Why is the direction so strange? Should I start with some spicy and sour shredded potatoes? But I don't know how to make it. Right, let Nova get me a recipe first. Just as Dongfang was about to call Nova, he suddenly realized he was getting off track. Wang Chun stood aside, watching his boss, one hand holding a peeler and the other holding a potato, shaking his head continuously. He immediately understood that his boss was thinking about the recipe, but he was considering the vinegar shredded potatoes or the spicy and sour shredded potatoes. Don't just stand there. Come help me. Wang Chun was startled by Dongfang's voice and looked up just in time to catch a clean potato flying towards him. He quickly reached out to catch it. Boss, should we peel it? Do we need to keep the skin? After picking up the peeler, Wang Chun asked. Let's keep it. We'll dry it and grind it. Got it. Then the two began their preparation work, grinding rice, drying and grinding eggs, grinding salt, oil. Let's set it aside for now. After an hour of preparation, they finally stopped. Boss, is this amount about right? Wang Chun asked, grinning at Dongfang, whose face was covered in flour. It's about right. I'll go wash my face first. You prepare the centrifuge and the temperature-controlled furnace. Forget it. You should wash your face too. You're just as messy. The two of them, both with white powder on their heads and faces, entered the break room. After washing up and feeling refreshed, they returned to the lab. Feels good. After Dongfang put on a clean lab coat, he stood in front of the experiment table. Chairman, take a look at the data from the previous experiments. Wang Chun picked up a piece of glass from the table and handed it to Dongfang. This is also a new product from the Gahuan Computer Company. Similar to a smartphone, it has a black metal bottom and a transparent glass top. It's very thin, and when the screen lights up, it feels like holding a slightly thicker piece of paper. This is a new product from the Gahuan Mobile Communication Company, launched simultaneously with the smartphone. I didn't expect it to be used in the lab already. This is an engineering sample sent by the mobile company. I thought it was good, so I didn't return it. Seeing his boss flipping it around, Wang Chun quickly explained. It's not very appropriate for me to use a product that the boss hasn't used yet. Well done. After saying this, Dongfang fell silent and carefully began reviewing the experiment records. First record, using flour, rice flour, potato starch, egg powder, salt powder, sugar powder, and oil, after filtering out impurities. A thorough mixture was made. The ratio was 222-105-0302, and it was heated to 220 degrees. All experimental materials were carbonized. Mass spectrometry analysis showed that all materials were useless. The first experiment failed, the second experiment recorded a failure, the 100th experiment failed, and the 2651st experiment also failed. A total of 6,200 failures. Dongfang put down the tablet in hand and asked thoughtfully, do you analyze the waste produced after each experiment? Yes, you see, since there has been no progress. I've paused the experiments in recent days. I compiled a table of the analysis results of all materials. Wang Chen quickly clicked a few times on the tablet and handed it back to Dongfang. Dongfang glanced at it. It was basically a wavy line, constantly fluctuating around the center, with data changes not exceeding 1 in either direction. Have you tried changing the formula? No, I just adjusted the proportions. Could it be that there's an issue with the formula? Dongfang had this thought in mind. So he pretended to continue looking at the tablet while internally calling out to Nova. Captain, I can confirm that this is the complete memory of that gentleman's daughter. Of course, it's possible that her memory itself is incomplete, so the formula we obtained is also incomplete. Why not just give up on the formula? We have the thermal insulation metal formula from the geosphere, right? A Dyson sphere can meet the needs, not to mention a small thermal nuclear fusion. Nova tilted her head, looking puzzled. No, the traces of technological disconnection would be too obvious. Others would easily spot the issue. Forget it. I'll think it over some more and try my hand again. You should have the robot run another extraction of memories. Let us split up. Understood, Captain. Nova nodded and disappeared from sight. Boss, did you come up with something? Wang Chen saw Dongfang standing still and didn't he dare to disturb him. Until he raised his hand, then walked over with a big smile and asked, I have some ideas, but nothing concrete. Let us just try it first, Dongfang replied, setting down the tablet and looking up at Wang Chen. Without further ado, the two immediately took various powders from the prepared mixtures according to a ratio they had never tested before. Dongfang stood in front of the experiment station, put on protective goggles, and used an electronic analytical balance to weigh the powders. Xiao Nuo, record the first experiment. Once all powders were ready, yes, master. Ready to serve you, the intelligent assistant in the corner quickly replied, and then the cameras in the lab automatically focused on the two. For the first time, mix the powders in a 1:1:1 ratio, send them into the heating device, and raise the temperature at a constant speed, maintaining it at 220 degrees for 2 minutes. This time, the first thing that came to mind for Dongfang was temperature. Previously, Wang Chen had directly heated it to 220 degrees Celsius. A few minutes later, a fragrant smell wafted from the heater, reminiscent of toasted bread and fried rice. Boss, can you smell that? Every time I catch a whiff of it, I can't help but want to eat something, Wang Chen said with a silly grin, scratching his head. Dongfang, expressionless, stared at the instrument without saying a word. Although he shared the same thought as the boss, he naturally couldn't express it. Let us open the lid and take a look at the materials. All right, Wang Chen replied, skillfully opening the heating device. He took out a powder that had turned somewhat charred. At a glance, Dongfang knew it was definitely a failure. The color was all wrong. However, science requires a rigorous attitude. So he said, let us run a molecular weight and structure analysis on the mass spectrometer. Understood. A few minutes later, the mass spectrometer reported the results. Unsurprisingly, it was another failure, starting the record for the second experiment, with a material ratio of 211:1. Recording in progress. The assistant, Xiao Nuo, diligently fulfilled his duties. A few minutes later, the smell of grilled steak filled the air. Unsurprisingly, another failure. Recording the 9th experiment. Starting the 20th experiment record. Time passed quickly, and the sky outside the laboratory had completely darkened. With a snap, Wang Chen turned on the overhead light. As the bright white light illuminated the black powder from the 21st failure, Dongfang finally paused. He had no clues and saw no possibility of success. When a busy person finally stops, fatigue washes over them like a tide. That was how Dongfang felt. He took off his gloves. Wang Chen, let's call it a day. We'll continue tomorrow. Okay, boss. Wang Chen, having been an assistant all day, was exhausted and replied weakly. After Dongfang left, Wang Chen didn't go home, but instead entered his lounge on the first floor and fell into a deep sleep. After exiting, Dongfang didn't take a car, but leisurely walked to the restaurant for a meal, then strolled back to his small villa. Throughout the journey, all his thoughts were consumed by the experiment, so he ignored the greetings from all the staff, drawing curious glances from them. What is wrong with the boss? He is not usually like this. Dongfang was unaware of their rich psychological activity. He was just constantly reviewing the experimental data copied from Wang Chen, hoping to find a clue. This focus led Dongfang into a special state, akin to what many historical geniuses experienced, the struggle of deep thought. Of course, Dongfang wasn't literally consuming ink. He was almost about to ingest the waste from the experiment. The next morning, after a hearty breakfast, Dongfang energetically entered the laboratory again, remaining there until it was completely dark outside and the lights were blazing. He walked back to the villa slowly, just like yesterday. On the 3rd day, things remained the same. On the 4th day, it was still the same. By the 10th day, Wang Chen, sporting 2 dark circles under his eyes, sent Dongfang out of the laboratory. He looked exceptionally pained, with his eye rings dark to the point of shining, though he wore a smile on his face. Anyone who saw him would know that he had reached the limit of his physical endurance. Dongfang naturally noticed his condition, so after taking a few steps away, he turned back and said, Wang Chen, take a few days off. I can handle it myself tomorrow. You don't look so good. Wang Chun, still a bit dazed, replied vaguely. Soon, he realized, boss, that's not right. Let me assist you. Dongfang waved his hand, turning to leave, saying, just look at your condition. Rest for a few days, and we'll talk later. For the next week, Dongfang dedicated himself to research. Without Wang Chun by his side, he became bolder in experimenting with formulas. Unfortunately, he still faced failure. Continuous failures, but strangely, starting from the third day, Dongfang's demeanor changed. He no longer appeared fully immersed in his work. Instead, he was smiling and greeted everyone warmly. It seemed that results were finally on the horizon. On this day, after a week's rest, Wang Chun appeared in the laboratory, glowing with health. After quickly changing into a lab coat, he briskly walked up the stairs. He tiptoed to the glass door and peered inside. Seeing his boss bent over the experiment table, murmuring something, he opened the door. He heard Dongfang mumbling. We're very close this time. The ratio is 5:2:2:1:3:1:4. No, I need to make a few more small adjustments. Wang Chun noticed that Dongfang was holding some grayish-white powder. Boss, let me help you. Chapter 213, Stardust. Thanks to Jiufeng, Dongfang was absorbed in his experiment when he suddenly heard someone calling his name. He instinctively looked up to see Wang Chun had arrived. He had recovered well, his face beaming with health. You look well rested. Come on, we're at the most critical stage of the experiment. I'm very close to the real thing. Dongfang laughed heartily, pointing to the grayish-white powder on the table. Really? Wang Chun's face showed disbelief. After nearly 2 months, they had finally reached this point. It was expected, yet surprising. Initially, he thought this might just be a prank by some people. He never expected it to be true. Alright, take the powdered materials in the ratio of 5:1:1:3:1:4 and put them in the oven. Use high heat, heating both the top and bottom at a temperature of 220 degrees Celsius. But don't actually try this, it's not real. Understood. Wang Chun skillfully took out various powders and, using an electronic analytical balance, measured out the materials in the ratio of 521:4. He then raised his head to ask, Boss, are we really using the oven? Can't we use an electric stove? After all, it controls the temperature more precisely. Just do as instructed, he replied, noticing that you were talking quite a bit now. Dongfang leaned back in the chair, looking exhausted. Sigh. Wang Chun, not saying anything further, immediately started on his task. He used a centrifuge to remove impurities, placed the mixture in a tray, and turned on the oven. Wang Chun wanted to leave, but he found himself staring blankly at the glass door of the oven, watching intently for every change. The white powder first turned golden yellow, then red, before gradually lightening in color. A delightful aroma of baked bread wafted out. That smells nice, was the first thought of both Dongfang and Wang Chun, but then the scent suddenly vanished without a trace, as if it had never existed. Just as Wang Chun was trying to catch a whiff, a bell rang. Is it time? Wang Chun asked. Open the oven. I have a feeling we're going to succeed. Dongfang sprang up from his seat, clapping his hands and revealing a joyful expression. Hey, Wang Chun replied heavily, extending his trembling hand to gently grasp the handle on the oven's glass lid. With a pull, the pure white powder came into view, resembling snow or salt. Dongfang put on heat-resistant gloves and swiftly took it out. Come on, don't dawdle. If it doesn't work, we can try again. A few minutes later, the temperature of the tray had cooled down. Dongfang reached out to test it. There was still some residual heat, but it was manageable. He picked up a measuring cup from the lab table and poured a large amount of water in at a 5:1 ratio with the powder. Then he stirred quickly. Before long, a paste-like substance appeared in the tray. The eggs are here. Clearly, Wang Chun knew how to use them, as he immediately handed Dongfang several raw eggs still in their shells. Dongfang took them and placed them in the tray, coating them with a thick layer of the white paste, like mud. Next came the moment of witnessing a miracle. After mumbling a few words, Dongfang picked up a high-temperature blowtorch. The blue flame licked at the 2 eggs, proving that the flame's temperature had exceeded 1,000 degrees Celsius. After burning for a full 5 minutes, Dongfang finally put away the torch. Boss, let me handle this dangerous stuff. Wang Chun rushed over and grabbed one of the eggs. It felt icy to the touch, with no sign of being scorched by the flame. Moreover, the paste had completely solidified, giving it an indescribable smoothness. Let's take a look. Dongfang smiled and spoke. Without hesitation, Wang Chun picked up a tool from the table and quickly completed the task of peeling off the paste. The egg emerged unscathed. However, as Wang Chun's hand shook slightly, he lost grip, and the egg fell onto the lab table with a loud crack. The egg shattered, leaving a mess of yolk and egg white everywhere. They were left dumbfounded. A wave of joy surged in the hearts of the two. A shared voice echoed in their minds. We did it. Stardust. This is Stardust. Dongfang laughed heartily and patted Wang Chun's shoulder. This is a historic breakthrough. As long as you don't blame me, boss. Wang Chun scratched his head, and the two exchanged smiles. In that moment, there was no distinction between boss and employee. Only boundless joy remained. There was also the happiness of finding what was sought after with ease. After a long time, they finally calmed their excited hearts. Wang Chun. The entire experimental process has been recorded by Xiao Nua. You need to produce a batch of stardust. It will be of great use to us. I'm too tired and need to get a good sleep. Tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. Bring the materials and wait for me at the entrance of the high-energy physics laboratory. Dongfang yawned and turned to leave the laboratory. Boss, you are truly amazing. You are indeed a great figure. Wang Chun watched his boss leave, fatigued, and silently admired him before starting the production of stardust. The next day, Dongfang woke up promptly at 6 o'clock a.m. Without the burden of stress, he slept especially soundly. He felt revitalized, and after completing the well-practiced dual operation method, he took a comfortable hot shower. Nova, do you think we can still obtain the Tier 3 gene serum? This had been a long-standing regret in his heart. Yes. Although the surrounding area has been ravaged, I believe those creatures would surely treat the gene serum as a treasured possession. However, they lack the dual operation method. So they won't be able to use the Tier 3 gene serum, meaning it remains stored in their treasury. I'm confident of that. Alright. Don't worry. As long as my strength is sufficient, I will definitely avenge you. Dongfang, fearing Nova would bring up the topic of revenge again, quickly ended the call. After having breakfast in the restaurant, he arrived at the entrance of the high-energy physics laboratory. This time, the one driving the access vehicle was a stunning beauty. Her appearance surpassed even those known as rare beauties, leaving even a steel-hearted man like Dongfang feeling captivated. Chairman, you're here. Wang Chun and Wu Xiangming were already waiting at the entrance, with Wang Chun speaking first. So, how is the preparation of Stardust going? I arrived half an hour early, and Stardust has already been delivered to Director Wu. By now, the staff must be close to finishing the coating of the vacuum chamber. Wang Chun patted his chest, looking confident. Yes, Chairman, Mr. Wang arrived long ago. The staff is basically ready and just waiting for you. We can ignite as soon as you arrive. It seems someone has reported the progress to Wu Xiangming. Everything is ready except for the final push. The breakthrough in thermonuclear fusion is happening today. Let us go in and take a look. Dongfang smiled slightly and was the first to enter the laboratory building. Chapter 214. Artificial Sun. It was still the familiar basement, and everyone was busy. As Dongfang entered, the staff was installing the outer shell of the fusion reactor. They wore smiles on their faces. The long-awaited hope might just be realized today, which lifted their spirits. Seeing everyone busy, Dongfang chose not to disturb them and instead stood to the side with Wang Chun, who was following closely behind. Wu Xiangming took a couple of steps closer and stood next to Dongfang. Chairman, in 5 minutes, all preparations will be complete, he said. Dongfang nodded. He was just as familiar with the structure diagram of the thermal nuclear reactor as Wu Xiangming was. However, even if the boss was fully aware of everything, it was necessary for the subordinates to report the situation clearly. Chairman, the previous report regarding the procurement of materials from various laboratories could not be fulfilled, as the technical reserves of domestic laboratories do not meet our requirements. This was to be expected. If they could meet the requirements, commercialization would have been achieved long ago. They were still struggling, and even if there were options, those would be national projects and could not be sold to Dongfang's high-energy laboratory. At that moment, a staff member approached. Chairman, Wu, we are all set. The staff member asked, what do you think, Chairman? Ignite. Dongfang replied with a slight smile. Understood. The staff member responded immediately. All departments, take your positions. Everyone exit the room and head to the control center. In 10 minutes, fuel will be injected, and we will prepare for ignition. Received. The group replied in unison and then exited the basement in an orderly manner. Once Dongfang saw the last staff member leave the basement, he turned and entered the control center. Behind him, the metal door slowly closed automatically. The control center was located some distance from the reactor. For safety, the room housing the reactor was situated 50 meters underground, while the control center was placed above ground, directly above the reactor. With the latest technology from the Earthring Group, the control center had a sci-fi appearance. As soon as Dongfang walked in, he noticed a circular glass screen hanging in the air, about 5 meters high and 2 meters wide. Below it was an open space surrounded by rows of circular desks, each equipped with computers. The screen was already lit up, displaying various data from the reactor. Dongfang walked around the screen, noting its clever design. Everyone seated at the circular desks could clearly see all the information displayed. Finally, Dongfang found an excellent vantage point and took a seat. All departments. Confirm that everyone has left, Wu Xiangming said as he stepped into the center of the open space and put on a microphone. Everyone has left. The area is clear. Came the immediate reply. Departments, report on your preparations. Fuel is ready. Laser ignition device is ready. All departments are ready to inject fuel. Wu Xiangming clapped his hands and said, after the fuel injection is complete, ignition will occur in 2 minutes. Understood, received. The circular display screen temporarily changed, prominently showing a machine. It picked up a small, precisely weighed piece of fuel from the storage area, which was unusually tiny. The robotic arm then slowly extended into the reactor cavity and gently placed the fuel down. The fuel was securely positioned at the focal point of the laser emitter. A report confirmed that the fuel injection was complete, with an amount of 10 grams, and ignition was ready. The staff reported the progress in an orderly manner. The reactor was fully sealed and ready for ignition. Another staff member spoke up. Wu Xiaoming looked up, checked the status of various systems again, and calmly said, "Ignition preparation. 10981, ignition, ignition." At the workstation closest to Wu Xiaoming, a staff member reached out and pressed the red button labeled ignition. Everyone collectively looked up at the glass display screen. "Captain, I didn't expect your progress to be so fast. We can already use ultra-clean energy." Just then, Nova appeared in view, tilting its head with a fan-like expression. "Of course, it's rare for the East to boast a little. I didn't expect results to come so quickly." "Yes, I didn't expect it either. I checked the data from Stardust. With this super insulating material, thermonuclear fusion will pose no difficulties. Next, we just need to miniaturize it. With that, Blue Star will have broken through to level 1 civilization, achieving a historic leap. The interstellar age is right before us, Your Excellency." The East suddenly realized why the super-intelligent AI, far beyond human civilization, would send a message at this time. Initially, he thought Nova was just trying to flatter, but only after Nova finished speaking did he realize it was no flattery at all. The Earth Ring Company had already reached the pinnacle of level 1 civilization. If everything went smoothly, today would be a historic moment. The admiration on Nova's face was genuine. Suddenly, the East's thoughts raced. Had he really made such a significant breakthrough without realizing it? He still felt like that college student. Thinking of college, the East was startled. He hadn't really accomplished anything. Without Nova's help, he wouldn't have even been able to research thermonuclear reactions, let alone break through to level 1 civilization. Right now, he was still just an ordinary college student struggling with his studies. During this time, he had been busy with business, making a lot of money. But he hadn't even started fulfilling his promises to Nova. In this situation, let alone seeking revenge, he was barely able to manage his daily life. "Nova, I'm sorry. Captain, what's wrong? You've been very good to me." "It's nothing. You're great," he thought. Why say such things to an AI? It was better to just work silently. It's time to make some changes. Just as the East was talking with Nova, something different appeared on the circular display screen. A bright red laser hit the fuel in the chamber, and a small fireball jumped out. All data from the reactor showed normal readings, and ignition was complete. The ignition time was 3 seconds. The small fireball gradually transformed into an orange fireball, bouncing and flickering. The artificial sun made its debut on the blue planet. Everything was operating normally, with a reaction time of 10 seconds and high-temperature plasma discharging correctly. The current was at 1000 Ka to 1200 Ka. It was a success. Chapter 215. The Kite. Unfortunately, nuclear fusion was still ongoing. So even though everyone was cheering and shouting with joy, no one stood up. Dongfang subtly nodded. The researchers at the High Energy Research Institute were quite impressive, clear-headed, and knowing what was most critical. The fuel was exhausted, and this fusion experiment was a complete success, generating a total of 5 kilowatt-hours of electricity, with a stable discharge process and all systems functioning normally. A few minutes later, Wu Xiaoming gave a summary speech. Only then did all the staff put down their work. They quickly rushed to the circular venue, and Wu Xiaoming responded even faster. As people came rushing in, he shouted, "I need to report the results to the chairman," and headed towards Dongfang. So the staff let him pass and instead blocked the deputy director, tossing him into the air. The chairman did not fail to deliver. "We succeeded." Wu Xiaoming ran to stand in front of Dongfang, hearing the cheers that almost broke his eardrums. Dongfang sat up straight, smiling at the director who was quite adept at playing the game of strategy. "Haha," Wu Xiaoming smiled awkwardly. "If it weren't for you and Director Wang." He hesitated, glancing at the colleagues celebrating in the venue. There was no need for formalities among family. He could see the efforts made by his comrades in nuclear fusion. He understood that he wanted to secure some benefits for everyone, to distribute bonuses. According to company tradition, everyone would get a share. "Well, thank you, boss." Wu Xiaoming surprisingly changed his tone, indicating that he truly respected his young chairman. Dongfang shot a glare at Wang Chun, who had just arrived. This kid was quite talkative. He must have told Wu Xiaoming. Never mind. Today was a happy occasion, so he wouldn't hold it against him. "Chairman, should we announce the experiment results to the media?" "No," Dongfang replied after a long consideration. "Now is not the time. The power of the state is not something we can match. We need to keep a low profile and only announce it after we have a clear lead. All personnel involved in today's experiment must maintain confidentiality. The non-disclosure agreement is of utmost importance. Additionally, the security level of the high-energy physics laboratory must be elevated to the highest level. Also, the materials laboratory and all experimental data must be strictly confidential. Apart from myself and Wang Chun, no one else is allowed to access it. and keyword searches in the database must be prohibited. Understood. Wu Xiangming and Wang Chun nodded heavily, their expressions serious and their gazes resolute. After seeing the sincerity of the two, Dongfang finally spoke again. I have confidence in both of you. However, be careful to avoid major mistakes. You are now the heads of the laboratory, and while conducting research, you also need to manage your subordinates well, as people's thoughts can be hidden. You can't know what they are really thinking. Dongfang pointed to the seats beside him. And after the two sat down, he continued, both of you have the capability for research and development, but as a leader, there are still many areas that need improvement. Just like Wang Chun before, even though everyone has worked together for a long time, you gathered everyone and indiscriminately revealed the formula for Star Chaser. This is unacceptable. Dongfang put away his smile and said with a serious expression, Boss, I will pay attention next time. I won't hold any events in the future. Wang Chun's face turned red. He had originally been pleased with his efforts to liven up the atmosphere. Of course, events should be held. But you need to pay attention to the content. Besides, I didn't blame you. When I handed you the formula, I didn't mention anything about confidentiality. Dongfang waved his hand. I'm telling you how to handle your work. Don't use all your intelligence just for research. Save some for management. Wang Chun nodded vigorously. Now, let's talk about Wu Suo. You don't have any issues here for now, but this is also a reminder for you to ensure confidentiality. You need to manage hundreds of people well. No one is allowed to leak even the slightest secret. Yes. All right, relax a bit. I believe with your intelligence, these things won't be a problem. Dongfang patted the shoulders of the two. Now, let's discuss work matters. Fusion should be fine. And the next step is to delve deeper into its development and utilization. I'll just mention 2 points. One is miniaturization, and the other is multifunctional application. Unfortunately, while Dongfang was instructing the two, someone quietly slipped out of the chaotic control center. With so many people around, the three completely failed to notice her. She was a strikingly beautiful girl, and even in her work uniform, her perfect figure was hard to conceal. Her skin was fair, and she had large, watery peach blossom eyes. Perhaps due to work, she had a short haircut that made her look neat and tidy. After exiting the control center, she adjusted her hat, pulling the brim down low. Then, with her hands in her pockets and head bowed, she quickly walked out of the laboratory. Whether intentionally or unintentionally, she lowered her head every time she passed a camera, preventing the recording from capturing her face clearly. Moreover, in areas where there were blind spots in the cameras, she would walk right into those blind spots. Looking at her face, there was no expression, and her gaze was cold. Clearly, even after a successful operation, she felt no joy. Lu Xian, a new employee who joined the high-energy physics laboratory in February, is currently 23 years old and graduated from Xibei University with a major in physics. Due to her outstanding performance, the school allowed her to pursue a combined bachelor's and master's degree. But she also has an identity that no one knows about, a hidden identity that has been concealed for over 10 years. 2 minutes later, Lu Xian arrived at the entrance of the high-energy laboratory. Without a moment's hesitation, she walked straight towards the building. Engineer Lu, where are you off to? Aren't you in the middle of an experiment? The security guard stationed at the lab entrance casually asked, harboring endless fantasies about the beautiful researcher. Today, he happened to be on duty, so he wanted to both do his job and have a word with her. Master Wang, you're on duty today? I'm not feeling well and want to head back to the dorm for a bit. The experiment is almost done, and there is not much left to do. Lu Xian stopped, smiling charmingly, her face showing no hint of discomfort. Oh, I see. Since you're not feeling well, you can go back. I just wanted to ask. Security guard Xiao Wang's face turned slightly red as he opened the laboratory door. Engineer Lu, I guess you must have family visiting. You've been working nonstop. It's tough on a girl. The guard sighed, watching the beautiful woman leave in a hurry. Hearing this, Lu Xian smiled enchantingly and shook her head. Oh man. After saying that, she quickened her pace towards the residential area. Number one, this is Kite calling, repeat. Number 1 received, please speak. The experiment has made significant breakthroughs. All issues have been resolved. On the other end of the communicator, a young man held the microphone in one hand while gently tapping the desk with the other. Despite his handsome face, half of it was shrouded in shadow, giving him an indescribable eerie vibe. Kite, can you provide more details? Sure. Originally, about half a month ago, the laboratory organized the first test, but due to material issues, ignition was not successful. The director has been contacting research institutes everywhere, hoping to acquire some technology. Everyone can feel his anxiousness. This morning, the head of the materials lab brought in some white paste, and the director immediately organized personnel to evenly apply it within the chamber, which then inexplicably led to a successful experiment. Is there any news about the paste? None yet. Just overheard colleagues mentioning something about it being called star something. Understood. Continue to monitor. Got it. After the communication ended, the young man put down the microphone, leaning back in his chair, enveloped in darkness. His face was completely obscured. with only faint mutterings heard. Who is supporting him? In just 2 years, he built such a large company from scratch, with an overwhelming number of patents. Why hasn't anyone else taken advantage of this backgroundless company? He fell silent, continuously tapping on the desk in front of him. To be safe, it would be best to investigate further. As the old saying goes, don't engage in battle without preparation. After chuckling to himself, he picked up the phone on the desk. In the high-energy physics laboratory, Dongfang had just finished talking with Wu Xiaoming. He has conveyed everything that needs to be said to the two of them. For scholars and researchers, he still has enough patience. The boss, we both understand now. Wang Chun and another person each grabbed one of Dongfang's hands and shook it firmly. As long as you understand, then let us get back to our own business. After wrapping up the matter of nuclear fusion, Dongfang went back to his office. After a long period of busyness, he had set aside company affairs. Wang Tao had reported several times about important documents needing his signature, but he had brushed them off, claiming he was too busy with research and development. Now that things had settled down, he couldn't put it off any longer. The familiar security vehicle was there, but instead of familiar security personnel, it was replaced by 2 young women, both with long hair and dressed in black suits. They wore black sunglasses. What a unique sense of aesthetics. Amid the curious gazes of all the employees, Dongfang walked into the office building. He believed that bodyguards should have the appearance of bodyguards. If they weren't wearing black suits, could they still be called bodyguards? No, they could also wear traditional attire, right? He chuckled to himself, thinking he would try that next time. Chairman, you finally made it. Wang Tao was the first to notice his boss, which was inevitable as he had been keeping an eye on the entrance. As soon as the boss arrived, he exited his office and hurried towards the elevator. What is up with you? You're out of breath. Your physical condition isn't great. Dongfang teased him casually. I just ran a short distance, Chairman. I'm in great shape. Wang Tao retorted, flustered. At a young age, he had no real health issues. And he patted his chest loudly, raising his voice a pitch. All right, you're in great shape, I see that. Dongfang chuckled and headed towards his office. Wang Tao sighed. Who told you to be the boss? What you say goes. So what is going on? Why are you running so fast? Oh, you know? Wang Chun silently shouted in his heart before quickly catching up to Dongfang. No rush, you're here now, right? Wang Tao slowed down after catching up, his face full of smiles. Oh, Dongfang turned his head to glance at Wang Tao. You little rascal, your flattery skills have improved. So what's the matter? Well, it's about the kindergarten. A new prefabricated construction company came to the park before the new year. I heard that prefabricated buildings are built quickly, so we decided to use concrete components. At first, I thought it would be fast, but I didn't expect it to be this quick. In just a month, the kindergarten was completed. Isn't that a good thing? I didn't expect your efficiency to be quite good. Dongfang pushed open the door to his office and walked in. Hey, it was just a bit too fast. The kindergarten is done, but our employees want to send their kids there. It's understandable since everyone is busy working and doesn't have time to look after their children. I completely get it, but because the construction was too quick, the recruitment of teachers, well, that didn't keep up. Wang Tao stood awkwardly across the desk. So the children must be sent to the city for schooling first. Traveling back and forth to the company in the city wastes time. And the employees have been quite vocal about this lately. I had no choice but to report this to you. I'm not saying anything against you. But you dare to proceed without fully understanding the characteristics of modular construction? Dongfang casually picked up the documents on the desk to review. Boss, it's my fault. I didn't follow up on the project in time. When my subordinate reported that the school was completed, I was still in disbelief. I thought that guy was joking. Then everyone started asking when the kids could go to school. That's when I realized it was really built. I was worried it wasn't certain. So I hurried to confirm. I didn't expect it to be truly finished, and it looks great. You should check it out too. You've got quite the routine going on, filling people's heads with ideas. Alright, I understand the situation now. You go back and inform everyone. All teachers should be in position tomorrow, and prepare for the kindergarten's official enrollment in a few days. By the way, are all the documents in order? We can't afford to not have the qualifications to operate the school and affect the kids. Dongfang put down the documents and pointed his pen at Wang Tao, who was standing across from him. He wasn't angry at all. He hadn't intended to hire teachers anyway. This kindergarten would use biomimetic robots for all teaching, and the instruction would be directly managed by Nova. So he was just teasing Wang Chun. Hey, Wang Chun's face immediately brightened with a smile. Boss, why don't you keep busy? I'll go inform everyone of the good news. He grinned mischievously, showing no trace of the earlier urgency. Alright, you go ahead. Just be more careful next time. There won't be a second chance. Dongfang said, putting away his smile and adopting a serious expression. There won't be a next time, boss. Wang Chun replied earnestly. How could I dare to have another chance? If there is, I'll bring my head to you. Just roll along with that head of yours. Got it. Hearing Dongfang jokingly scold him, Wang Chun felt assured and happily walked out the door. Just then, there was a knock at the door. Wang Chun quickly took a couple of steps to the office door and pulled it open. It was the secretary from the president's office, a stunning beauty. Director? Have you finished your discussion with the chairman? She asked upon seeing Wang Tao open the door. What is up? Just finished reporting to the chairman, and you're leaving now? If you have something to report, it's best to do it now, she said. What were you two whispering about at the door? Come in and talk, Dongfang asked when he noticed Wang Tao blocking the entrance and not coming in for a while. It's nothing. Xiao Zhang said there is something important to report to you. Wang Tao quickly stepped aside to let her in and quietly told her. Just report directly to the chairman. I'll accompany you. After saying that, he turned and walked back into the office first. Go ahead, don't be shy. Dongfang noticed the girl was a bit nervous and comforted her. Okay, Chairman, Director Wang, I just received a call. The agency has received reports alleging that we are involved in tax evasion and is set to conduct a financial audit. After that, Xiao Zhang handed over a document marked in red. This is the document they sent us, and we need our finance department to fully cooperate. Dongfang took it and looked down. It was a notification from the Provincial Tax Bureau regarding an audit at our company. Upon seeing the title, Dongfang furrowed his brows. The Provincial Bureau? Skipping the city level, this document came directly from higher up, indicating something unusual. The notification stated, recently, we received reports from the public claiming that your company, since its establishment, has had a good operating condition and a rich variety of products, covering automotive manufacturing, biopharmaceuticals, software, and aerospace, with product quality far exceeding competitors and being favored by consumers. However, due to your strong R&D capabilities, your products face no competition in the market, and pricing is determined solely by your company, leading to long-term market monopoly, unclear revenue, and profits, indicating obvious tax evasion issues. Our investigation confirmed the accuracy of the public reports. After obtaining approval from the National Bureau, we have decided to conduct an audit on your company. Audit Team Leader, Hu Tutin, members, Ma Xiaoxiao, etc., contact person, Zhou Hailong, phone, 1334-444-4444. Don't call, it's made up. The audit will last for a total of 60 working days from the date of this document. Dongfang read through the document carefully, his frown deepening. Who is trying to stir up trouble? All right, I understand now. Notify the finance department to be prepared. Wang Tao will be responsible for liaising with the agency. You don't need to worry about anything else. Dongfang looked at the two serious-faced individuals and smiled gently, the creases on his forehead easing. He seemed confident. Oh, then I'll contact Zhou Hailong to see when he will arrive at the company. After saying that, he turned to the assistant and said, let us go. Let the chairman handle his business. Watching the confused beauty, Wang Tao couldn't help but chuckle. This time, nothing unexpected happened, and after they left, they closed the door. Dongfang's previously relaxed expression tightened again. Is someone targeting me? But there was no news coming from anywhere. Neither the park, the district, nor the city had any information. If there were, Zhao Jinyu would have called me first. However, all the accounts of the company are legal and compliant, and there is absolutely no issue of tax evasion. Moreover, all product pricing is determined based on reasonable profit margins. It's clear that someone is up to something. Thinking of Zhao Jinyu, Dongfang's frown loosened a bit. This young master from the capital is well-informed and has extensive connections. Asking him is definitely the right move. Yuga, what are you busy with? Hey, I just had a meeting, and I saw your call coming in, so I stepped out. What is up? The call went through, but Dongfang found it a bit difficult to start the conversation. His mind was racing. Could it have something to do with Zhao Jinyu? Brother, if there's something, just say it. We are like family. There's no need to beat around the bush. Zhao Jinyu's laughter faded, and his tone turned serious. Hey, if there's nothing, I'm hanging up. Hearing Zhao Jinyu say this, Dongfang gritted his teeth. So what if it was him? At worst, it would just be a laugh. Who on Planet Blue could be a match? Brother, I received a notice today. Since he had started speaking, Dongfang no longer held back and explained the situation clearly. I've been busy with work lately and haven't paid much attention to you. Is this for real? Of course, I have the documents in my hand. This isn't ordinary. It bypassed the city and came directly from the province. Don't worry, let me investigate a bit. I'll call you back shortly, so keep your phone on. After Zhao Jinyu hung up, Dongfang felt more relaxed. He knew Zhao Jinyu's character well. This matter was definitely not related to him. Dongfang picked up the documents on the table and read them carefully. They looked impeccable, with not a single flaw. The reasoning was solid, indicating a thorough understanding of the group. It directly pointed to the issue, monopoly. Dongfang chuckled. If they wanted to avoid exposing themselves, they shouldn't act. But once they did, there would definitely be traces left behind. Nova, monitor all communications of the staff in Province J. I want to see who dares to cross this line. Understood, Captain. The task is underway, and all personnel communications are being monitored. I will report any developments to you immediately. A few minutes later, Dongfang's phone rang. It was Zhao Jinyu, which made Dongfang feel a bit more at ease. He had been worried that their friendship might be at stake. After all, their bond was more important than anything else. This was a key reason for their close relationship. Brother, any news? I inquired, and was told there were public reports claiming your company has a monopoly and is involved in tax evasion, so they need to conduct a routine investigation. Don't worry, it's nothing serious. Zhao Jinyu laughed heartily, his tone relaxed. Then why not use the city's resources? Dongfang was skeptical. They say the influence of the Earth Environment Group is immense. If the city sends someone, the level 1 T be adequate, and they might not dare to conduct a thorough investigation due to the pressure. However, my classmate also mentioned that there isn't really a big issue. It's just a routine check. Okay, I understand. Thanks, brother. Between us, let us not talk about formalities. Just ensure the finance department cooperates well. Call me anytime if there is anything. If any trouble arises, I 1T let it slide. After discussing the serious matter, Zhao Jinyu's playful side came back out. Got it. I understand now. Dongfang chuckled. All right, my meeting isn't over yet, so I'll hang up. Call me if anything comes up. Dongfang put down the phone, still feeling a bit uneasy, with an inexplicable sense of foreboding. Knock, knock, knock. The sound of knocking at the door echoed again. Chairman, another document has arrived. The secretary of the emergency response team entered the room and immediately presented another document. Wait. Chapter 2, 18 meeting. Oh. Dongfang stood up and took the document handed over by the secretary. It was another internal document, but this time it was from the JD team, regarding the notification for routine inspections of enterprises in the park. Upon seeing this, he had some guesses in mind. Xiao Zhang, you carry on with your work. And also inform Wang Tao to coordinate with this side. Let us prepare for the inspection. Okay, I've already reported to Director Wang, and he asked me to report to you. He has coordinated with the relevant personnel. They will come early tomorrow. Oh, are there any other units coming? Not for now. The secretary chuckled. It seems like these are the only inspections. What units would come to us anyway? Our company has a good reputation. Yes, you're right. You can get back to your work. Dongfang laughed heartily, amused by the innocent secretary. If you need anything, just call me. After the secretary left, Dongfang casually tossed the document aside without looking at it, leaning back in his chair. The storm was approaching. He was certain that there would be more inspections soon. However, he couldn't be sure where they would come from. 10 minutes passed, then half an hour, then an hour. After completing the review of all documents, there was still no knock on the door. This was quite strange. Initially confident, he began to have doubts. He pressed the call button on his desk. Xiao Zhang, are there any more documents coming in? Chairman, not at the moment. We haven't received any new documents. All right, I understand. Releasing the button, Dongfang fell silent. Was it that the other party's strength was insufficient to mobilize more relevant departments? Or were they just testing the waters with a scout? Or could it be that someone had indeed reported his company? Dongfang felt uncertain. Nova, do you have any updates on your side? Captain, I have been monitoring their communications and haven't discovered anything yet. I suspect they are communicating face-to-face since those areas are not equipped with cameras. So there is nothing to report for now. Nova's quick response confirmed that there were indeed no findings. The person in question had a significant identity, managing to evade Zhao Jinyu and ensuring that everything was perfectly executed. It seemed he would have to engage in a serious confrontation. When soldiers come, block them. When water comes, bury it. What is there to fear? Early the next morning, Dongfang arrived at the office early. Wang Tao reported that Hu Tu and his team were scheduled to enter the company today, and before their entry, there would be a meeting. At 8:50, Wang Tao arrived at Dongfang's office door. After hearing Dongfang's response, he took a breath and pushed open the heavy wooden door. Chairman, the meeting is about to start. Will you be attending? At that moment, Dongfang was standing in front of the large floor-to-ceiling window, facing away from the office door. So soon? Is everyone already here? They have all arrived. It mainly depends on whether you will attend. If you're not participating, I can go by myself and just say you're busy. Dongfang turned around, with the rising sun behind him, the sunlight blooming behind him, outlining his figure in gold, as if he were radiating light. Wang Tao stared at this scene, somewhat dazed. Why does the boss have such good skin? He is not a woman, and his face has no pores at all. When the sun shines on him, it even reflects light. What is the rush? I'll attend the meeting today, but since they are here to investigate, we need to be well prepared to meet them. Otherwise, not knowing anything would make it hard to cooperate, right? You're right, so what shall we do? Let us wait a few minutes. Since the meeting starts at 9 o'clock, let us enter at 9 o'clock sharp. Why don't you tell me what kind of person Hu Tutin is? Sure, I inquired as per your instructions. Hu Tutin is 45 years old, has over 20 years of work experience, is low-key, unassuming, and is known to be a nice person. It's said that in all these years, he has never had a dispute with anyone. During work, he basically only travels between the office and home, has no bad habits, and values his family highly. Apart from that, there is nothing else notable. Wang Chun introduced all the information without any hesitation, seeming to have put in some effort. Oh, no bad habits. But what about hobbies? It seems he doesn't have any, as he is busy with his work every day, and after work, he either buys groceries or goes home. Colleagues have not gotten to know him beyond work interactions. Dongfang smiled. That's great. It seems we are just speculating. He is here to carry out his work normally. And you've seen him in person. Do you think the results of your inquiries match him? Yes, they match. He always has a chubby face with a smile and is polite when speaking to anyone, completely unlike someone with ulterior motives. Well then, let us go meet this nice person. In the conference room of the Earthring Group, Dongfang and Wang Tao were discussing when the chubby Hu Tutin was sitting properly at the table. He was dressed in a dark blue suit with a white shirt and tie. He was smiling at everyone, and although it was already 8:58, there was no sign of impatience or anger on his face. However, because he was quite overweight and the temperature in the conference room was a bit high, he kept pulling tissues from the box to wipe the sweat from his face. But he didn't seem to mind. His colleagues were starting to get a bit impatient. We agreed to start the meeting at 9 o'clock, and it's already 8:58 with no one here. This Earthring Group really has no sense of time. It's fine. It's understandable for a big company's boss to be a bit busy. Only you would think that way. The colleagues laughed. The well-known nice guy isn't in a hurry, so we can wait a bit longer. Haha, you can't let your emotions show. We must pay attention to discipline while working. I understand that. As the two were conversing, the conference room door was pushed open. Dongfang walked in first, exchanged a casual greeting, and approached Hu Tutin, who looked a bit embarrassed, saying, I'm sorry for the delay, I got held up by something. Thank you for waiting. But since it's just 9 o'clock, I'm not late, right? A gentle smile appeared on Hu Tutin's chubby face. Not late at all, Chairman. Your timing is just right. I understand that with such a large company, there are always endless tasks to handle. It's good to have mutual understanding. After some effort due to his weight, he stood up and extended his hand toward Dongfang. Hello, Mr. Dongfang. It's a pleasure to formally meet you. I'm Hu Tutin, the team leader for this investigation. Dongfang shook his hand lightly before letting go. Hello, Hu. Haha, I didn't expect you to be so young. The old saying is true. Heroes emerge from the youth. Hu modestly replied, You flatter me. I feel honored to achieve a bit of success. But your recognition is well-deserved. I see it's time for our meeting. Shall we begin? Sure. Dongfang was even more confused. What did this all mean? Could it really just be a normal investigation? Chapter 219. Nested Dolls. The meeting was actually quite short, mainly emphasizing that they were there on superior orders to conduct a routine investigation. As long as the issues were clarified, they would wrap up immediately and, during the work period, strictly adhere to the rules to ensure the company's normal operations were not affected. Dongfang also expressed his commitment to fully cooperate with the working group and to meet any requirements. It was all very cordial, with everyone being polite. Well, Hu, I'll get back to my work. If you need anything, just let me know. There's nothing to worry about. No trouble at all. The chubby man shook Dongfang's hand vigorously, his face radiating warmth. All right, you've met the finance team. I'll let you be. After withdrawing his hand, Dongfang left the conference room without looking back. Chairman, what is going on? Gao Yuan was waiting at the door of Dongfang's office and saw Wang Chun looking quite displeased. Gao Yuan smiled and asked, Mr. Gao, you're here. It's just that Hu took too long in the meeting, delaying our schedule. Wang Chun spoke up, as it was better for him to say this than for the boss. It's nothing serious. We just need to cooperate with the relevant department's inspection. After all, the innocent have nothing to fear. I believe he will give us a reasonable outcome. Dongfang chuckled and entered the office. As long as it's nothing serious. I have something to report to you. What is it about? After sitting down, Dongfang gestured for Gao Yuan to take a seat in the chair across the desk. It's about some materials. Materials? Dongfang was a bit surprised. Today, a private physics lab called, saying they heard we developed a new type of insulation material. And they have a demand for it, so they are offering a high price for the technology. Gao Yuan, engrossed in his tea, didn't notice Dongfang's expression. So he quickly laid everything out like pouring beans from a bamboo tube. How did they manage to contact you? Why is the office unaware? Dongfang unconsciously tapped his fingers, which had almost become a habit, indicating that things seemed unusual. Hi, a classmate of mine, studying in a certain country, majoring in physics. Since we are all from the same place, we knew each other from school and often gathered together, but we haven't been in touch since returning home. Today he suddenly called, and it was hard to decline. Moreover, they offered 500 million renminbi. I thought, just for one material, so I asked Wang Chun. And he said this matter needs to be approved by you. So here I am, seeking your approval. Gao Yuan lowered his head to drink tea, thinking this classmate was foolish to offer so much money for just one material. It's foolish not to make money. If the company has more results, selling a bit to him wouldn't hurt. Dongfang chuckled inwardly. 500 million renminbi. What a lowball offer. Maybe 50 billion if he felt like selling. Besides, how did a private lab find out about such strictly confidential research results? A flash of insight crossed Dongfang's mind, and it all made sense now. First, an organization came to inspect, then they proposed to purchase technology. As soon as you say no, they might immediately find a bunch of issues to throw at you. The fox's tail is showing. This combo move is quite clever, but you need to act first. After all, the enemy is in the light while we are in the dark. Once you show your hand, there's nothing to be afraid of. Oh, your classmate didn't say how they knew we had new materials? He didn't mention that. He just said we had made a significant breakthrough that they could use. Plus, he's an alumnus, so he called to discuss cooperation. Do you think there's something to talk about? There's nothing to discuss. We don't have anything to sell to others. You should reply, but don't rely on hearsay. Dongfang smiled and dismissed Gao Yuan. Damn, they have quite a few tricks up their sleeves. However, he wasn't falling for it. He would wait and see. Chairman, the teachers have already arrived. Shall we go to the school? Wang Tao knocked and entered, following Dongfang's instructions to pick up the kindergarten teachers today. Is it time? If a meeting has wasted so much time, then let's go. Dongfang put down the documents in his hand, stood up, and straightened his clothes before walking towards the door. The familiar black-suited female bodyguard drove them to the kindergarten, where they got out at the entrance marked with the sign of the D. Huan Group Kindergarten. Dongfang was somewhat taken aback. Although he had seen it in the blueprints before, seeing the actual building still left him a bit shocked. The kindergarten covered a vast area of 20 acres, but there weren't many buildings inside. A few single-story structures stood at the entrance, serving as classrooms for the teachers. The exterior walls were covered in numerous cartoon paintings, filling the space entirely. It was clear that this was a paradise prepared for children. Further ahead, there was a vast area with soccer fields, basketball courts, badminton courts, and tennis courts, not to mention the necessary indoor sports facilities. The architectural style of these buildings was consistent with that of the teachers, which the children would surely love. At that moment, the kindergarten entrance was adorned with colorful flags and a banner reading, "Warmly welcome teachers to join the kindergarten and welcome children to enroll in the Earth and Environment Kindergarten." Quite impressive indeed. Dongfang smiled and walked into the kindergarten. In front of the first teaching building, the open space was already filled with people. Most of them were women, all exceptionally attractive. However, Dongfang felt a hint of familiarity among them, reminiscent of his two beautiful bodyguards. Nova, this is too careless of you. With so many people on the planet, can't you find a better appearance from the database? They all look like nested dolls. Who wouldn't see the issue? Just as Dongfang called out to Nova, Wang Tao spoke up. Boss, these teachers are really beautiful. But the cosmetic surgery technology nowadays is too advanced. They all have high noses, big eyes, and small mouths. If I didn't know in advance that they were teachers, I would have thought this was an influencer gathering. See, what we worry about comes true. Even someone as straightforward as Wang Tao noticed the problem. If a sharp-eyed person comes along, they would spot the issue immediately. I'm sorry, Captain. This was my oversight. I didn't consider human appearances. I will rectify it right away. Nova displayed a pitiful expression. No. I'll inform them to change personnel. Let them come tomorrow instead. Understood, Captain. As Dongfang stopped in his tracks, Wang Tao also halted and asked, Chairman, what is the matter? You're right. The children don't need such teachers. Inform them to disperse. What we need is natural beauty, not influencers. That's enough for today. After saying this, Dongfang turned and left, abruptly ending a grand welcome ceremony. However, Wang Tao was somewhat surprised that after the notice went out, everyone quietly dispersed without a single protest. How strange. He had originally planned to use all his skills to persuade these young ladies. But is this really better? Chapter 220. Hall Thruster. That day, Dongfang had a rather frustrating experience. Therefore, instead of returning to the office, he went straight back to his villa. Captain, I'm sorry. I didn't consider these aspects. Nova looked at Dongfang with her big watery eyes, her expression seemingly saying, I'm just an AI. How could I care about appearances? All right. Since I'm not in a good mood today, you're the one I'll take it out on. You're the captain. It's up to you. Nova put away her pitiful expression and continued, I will update the relevant information according to your instructions. Shall I send someone over at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning? 930 points. I'll inform them that there will be no welcome ceremony this time, and we'll start the enrollment and teaching directly. Understood, Captain. After concluding the conversation, Dongfang completed his dual tasking routine and went to bed early. When the sun rose, Dongfang opened his eyes. He jumped out of bed and completed his daily training, facing the morning sun. After washing up, he headed to the dining hall. Good morning, Chairman. Wang Tao was already waiting at the door, dressed in a pure white suit, with his hair slicked back. It was so smooth that, without exaggeration, even a fly couldn't land on it. What are you up to today? Dongfang glanced over and found it somewhat amusing. Well, I just wanted to make a good impression on the teachers. I want them to feel the warmth of our company towards colleagues, like in spring. Wang Tao's face turned red instantly, but he had prepared his response, thinking that the boss shouldn't notice anything unusual. Dongfang nearly burst out laughing, imagining what this kid would think if he knew these were just bionic robots. You're doing well. This is how you should treat new colleagues. Keep it up. After saying this, Dongfang couldn't help but quicken his pace into the dining hall, leaving Wang Tao laughing heartily behind. It was still the familiar kindergarten, but this time, all the bionic teachers were different, each with their own style. Dongfang looked at the teachers in their colorful outfits and felt a bit overwhelmed. Some were in suits, while others had a strong sense of everyday life. Chairman, the quality of these teachers is even higher today. Just look at how stylish their clothes are. So much life in them, all pure natural beauty. Wang Tao really didn't notice anything unusual, but that was good. It was just what Dongfang hoped for. So he picked up the microphone and cleared his throat. Dear colleagues and teachers, today we are holding a grand welcome ceremony. First, we welcome our new teachers, and secondly, we welcome all the little ones. Tomorrow, our kindergarten will officially open, and colleagues 1T have to run back and forth to pick up the children anymore. Importantly, all our teachers are graduates from prestigious normal universities. I believe that with their joining, our children will be well nurtured. The audience erupted into enthusiastic yet synchronized applause, and Dongfang felt a wave of frustration. Let it be, he thought, after glancing at Wang Tao, who was mingling happily in the crowd. He didn't greet him and went straight back to his office. Just as Dongfang sat down, his phone rang urgently. Old you, what is going on? Chairman, are you busy? I have something to report to you. Oh, go ahead. Dongfang was puzzled. It hadn't been long since he left, and there wasn't much to discuss. It's like this, after you left, we felt quite embarrassed, so everyone put in a lot of effort, working day and night on research and development, and unexpectedly, we actually achieved some results. Really? That's great news. Dongfang became interested and immediately sat up straight. Aerospace is indeed his favorite field. It's the Hall thruster. Oh, Dongfang seemed a bit less interested. This engine is still far from practical application, 100 years away. The working principle immediately appeared in his mind. It uses trapped electrons in a magnetic field to ionize the propellant, generating thrust backward. It includes two types, steady-state plasma thrusters, also known as Hall effect thrusters, and thrusters with an anode layer. The basic working principle is that the crossed electromagnetic fields capture electrons emitted from the cathode, causing the electrons to rotate along the magnetic field lines and drift in an angular direction within the discharge area. This angular drift of the electron current is called Hall current. The angular drift is the result of the interaction between the crossed radial magnetic field and the axial electric field, which is the Hall effect. Currently, powerful nations on Blue Planet are all developing this type of thruster. Just like a few years ago, the news reported that a university student from a prominent country invented a large paper airplane, which, under the influence of a Hall thruster, flew several dozen meters. It quickly topped various trending lists, and everyone was impressed. Some might say, what is so impressive about that? It's just a paper airplane. What is the big deal? But it is indeed impressive because previously, the thrust of Hall thrusters was only a few millinewtons. It's not an exaggeration to say it didn't even have the thrust of a small puff. So, propelling a paper airplane is quite remarkable. But let us not underestimate ourselves. We are also doing great because we have already achieved over 1 Newton of thrust in the lab. Thus, Dongfang seemed a bit less interested. Chairman, I know what you're thinking. If it were something without practical significance, we wouldn't be calling you. Oh, is there any breakthrough progress? Tell me about the performance parameters. Yu Xingrui chuckled before speaking. Chairman, we have broken into 3 digits. 105 newtons of thrust. Great. Give bonuses to the team. At the highest standard. Dongfang slammed the table and stood up. This was indeed good news that cleared away the gloom of the past few days. Lao Yu, explain in detail. Speaking of this, we have to mention our genius youth. Jiu Feng. Yu Xingrui's tone also became elevated, and he felt proud. He is only 20 years old, a student in the genius class at Jing University. He completed his university studies at 16 and went abroad for further study, completing his Master and doctoral studies in just 4 years. Originally, he intended to stay in the research lab abroad for a few years, but due to the rampant issues in that country, safety could not be guaranteed. So he returned home, and he didn't want to work within the system, which is why his teacher, my classmate, recommended him to me. Then I tricked him into coming. Wow, this old guy isn't as simple as he looks. Chapter 221. Ecology. Dongfang hung up the phone and had a clear understanding of the situation. It turned out that it was Yu Xingrui who, after I left, had been holding on to a strong ambition, successfully dealing with liquid rockets and solid engines. Meanwhile, I, who prided myself on my outstanding business skills, had achieved nothing. So he turned his attention to the recently popular Hall thruster. Humanity's ultimate dream is to explore the vastness of the universe. Chemical engines are very suitable for use within planets when overcoming gravity. However, in the cosmic expanse, distances are measured in light years. How far can that little bit of chemical fuel take us? Thus, Yu Xingrui focused on the Hall thruster, wanting to experiment within the galaxy to accumulate some experience for future space exploration. However, he still underestimated the difficulty of the Hall thruster and overestimated his own capabilities. Unsurprisingly, he failed. The principle of the Hall thruster is indeed simple, but making groundbreaking advancements to increase its thrust and lifespan is a global challenge. Achievements cannot be made merely by numbers. It requires a revolutionary figure to break through. Yu Xingrui's luck was off the charts. First, he solved his daughter's issues. And then he welcomed a genius teenager. The Hall thruster does not require fuel, it only needs power. A magnetic field compresses and ejects ions to produce thrust. However, when the ions strike the interior walls of the device, the metal will corrode, affecting engine efficiency and significantly reducing its lifespan. But these challenges became a game for Jiufeng. Yes, a game. He found the ejection of ions fascinating, and during his playful exploration, he realized that if corrosion couldn't be solved, his big toy's lifespan would be drastically shortened. Since the ions strike the device's walls, why not prevent them from doing so? This was something Yu Xingrui only learned later in conversations with Jiufeng. Jiufeng creatively added another magnetic field to the device, which constrained the ejected ions, preventing them from contacting the cavity at all. As a result, the device's performance improved significantly, and its lifespan increased as well. A global challenge was easily solved. Haha, it seems there are indeed talented individuals out there. Should I transfer him to my side for training? Dongfang thought it over carefully, but decided against it. Such a genius needs to be nurtured freely. He shouldn't be constrained in his ideas. So after going through it in his mind, he let it be. Let him grow on his own, and bring him back when he's reached a certain level. There was a knock on the door. Come in. Dongfang opened his eyes and looked towards the door. Chairman, everything has been taken care of. Wang Tao walked in with a big smile, seemingly quite pleased with his work in receiving the guests. Just get it done. It's such a small matter, and you came back to report? Looking at Wang Tao's flushed face, Dongfang couldn't help but feel amused again. No, I'm not here to report that matter, but this. Wang Tao's hands reached out from behind, presenting a blue box. What is it? Boss, this is what Zhang Hao asked me to bring to you. He said it's something good. That guy was grinning in a rather mischievous way, as if it were something dubious. What nonsense, what expression is that? Never mind, just take a look. Wang Tao immediately put on a serious expression and retreated behind Dongfang, not making another sound. Dongfang ignored him and picked up the box from the table. It was a blue box about 15 centimeters high and 20 centimeters long and wide. Calling it blue wasn't entirely accurate, as a slight shimmer could be seen upon closer inspection, as if it had glitter sprinkled on it. The outside of the box had no labels, just a faint outline of a wristband drawn with gold dust. Dongfang gently flipped it open. Inside was a thin blue paper that matched the style of the box, but had a clear logo of the company printed on it. Dongfang chuckled. The quality just went up a notch. Didn't expect Zhang Hao's taste to be on point. Lifting the paper, Dongfang saw two items. One was a transparent wristband, and the other was a half pair of glasses. Just like the half glasses from cartoons, it could be hung directly on the face. Dongfang thought to himself as he picked up the glasses and put them on. Hello, master, welcome to use the auxiliary glasses. Since this is your first use. Finding the iris. As soon as he put them on, Dongfang felt the glasses were extremely light, almost weightless. Then he heard a prompt sound in his ear, a pleasant female voice. Finding complete. After the voice faded, a virtual screen appeared in front of Dongfang's glasses. A mahogany desk. Entirely made of mahogany, quite expensive. Then a line of text appeared before his eyes. Wow. He turned his eyes to the documents on the desk. Paper documents. A4 size. Content. Financial report of the Earth Ring Group for the first quarter. He turned again. Landline phone. Usage scenario. Indoor. Brand. Earth Ring Group's communications subsidiary. Interesting. Dongfang turned back to look at Wang Tao. Human. Director of the Earth Ring Group President's Office. Wang Tao. Reportedly quite mischievous. Haha. It must be Zhang Hao doing this on purpose. Really amusing. Then, Dongfang picked up the transparent wristband from the box. Upon touching it, he found it felt great, like silicone material, so it felt like touching human skin. The only downside was that it wasn't completely transparent. It had a black clasp that needed to be opened before wearing. After fastening the band, it automatically powered on. A beam of light shot out from the side of the band, and a screen appeared on the arm. This kid has some ideas. The individual reached out and tapped the screen. The device detected the band and asked if it matched. A prompt sound echoed in the ear, and the appearance of the band was displayed before his eyes, slowly rotating. Matched. Just as he finished speaking, a line of numbers appeared on the screen on his arm. 13321. He read it out loud. Matching complete. Welcome to use the Star Universe band. The screen on his arm changed, and a new icon appeared. He pressed it, and a real-time monitoring screen popped up. Oh, so this allows checking the status of the glasses? He swiped his hand across the screen a couple of times, and the image moved accordingly. Then he moved his eyes, and the image followed suit. So it's linked. After closing the monitoring, he began to explore other icons on the screen. Calls, a browser, a certain messaging app, a certain e-commerce platform. Everything was there, along with many professional design software produced by a certain company. He casually opened one, and to his surprise, it was an interior decoration 3D design tool. Please select the room to design. 1. Residential. 2. Office. 3. Commercial. 4. There were also subcategories like 2 rooms, 3 rooms, 4 rooms. He chose a 2-room option, and the subtitles disappeared, transforming into a bare-walled and bare-floored room, making him feel as if he was standing inside it. Not bad. This is what ecological design looks like. He could foresee that the company would completely integrate into people's lives. Chapter 222. Electromagnetic catapult. His fondness for these 2 items even surpassed the equipment provided by Nova. This was due to the long-term accumulation and significant breakthroughs achieved by the company. Hence, he felt a great sense of satisfaction. Behind him, Wang Tao looked somewhat frustrated. Why was the boss laughing to himself and not talking to him? Did he do something outrageous again? It seemed not. While he was carefully recalling his previous statements, the individual had finally finished playing with the 2 products. What are you doing? Seeing Wang Tao's puzzled expression, he chuckled. Waiting for your instructions. Wang Tao was quick to respond. Oh, actually, I do have a request. Has there been a lot of people playing the Interstellar Colonization era game recently? After trying out the 2 products, he immediately had thoughts about their application scenarios. Isn't this tailored for astronauts? So he asked Wang Tao. Oh, that's what it is. Seeing Wang Tao hesitate, he felt a bit puzzled. Has this kid been focused on girls lately? In fact, he was somewhat inaccurate in his guess. Wang Tao thought it was just a game. Apart from the first person to clear the game, he hadn't paid attention to anyone else, not even glancing at them. What? Don't you know? He stared at Wang Tao, his smile fading, leaving no expression at all. Wang Tao felt a jolt in his heart, and a layer of cold sweat immediately broke out on his back. The boss's tone was concerning. I'm sorry, Chairman, I thought it was just a game. So, other than being the first to go live, I really didn't. Dongfang didn't speak, but he was genuinely a bit angry inside. It was one thing for others not to know, but as the director of the president's office, he should have been aware of matters that the chairman had paid attention to. Otherwise, what was the point of working in the office? Wang Tao didn't dare to breathe, sweat beads continuously dripping down from his forehead. At that moment, he felt as if the air in the office had solidified, unusually heavy, making even breathing difficult. Why was the chairman's presence so imposing now? What to do? He glanced at his newly bought watch, feeling as if the hands weren't even moving. How had only 2 minutes passed? Just as he felt his legs giving way, ready to kneel, Dongfang's voice came through. If you don't know, then go and check. Do I have to teach you? How would you know just by standing there? Ah, what a heavenly voice. Wang Tao felt that at this moment, everything became vibrant. After hurriedly agreeing, he dashed off, all his sweat retreating. Half an hour later, Wang Tao stood once again at the door of Dongfang's office. One hand pressed against his heaving chest, the other knocking on the wooden door. Come in. Upon hearing Dongfang's resonant and magnetic voice, he gently pushed the door open and walked in. He saw Dongfang leaning over the desk, holding a document in hand, but his gaze was wandering, clearly deep in thought. Knowing Dongfang well, he felt some confidence, so he didn't dare to speak and could only silently stand in front of his desk, waiting for Dongfang to come back to himself. Busy with his work, Dongfang responded to the knock and then immersed himself back into what he was doing. Time rewound to half an hour earlier, after Wang Tao had left. Dongfang picked up the documents on his desk again. The first few were unremarkable, financial reports, project applications, and similar content, which he quickly finished reading. However, one document caught his attention, a project application report regarding carrier-based electromagnetic catapult technology from the mechanical equipment manufacturing plant. Electromagnetic catapult? Dongfang's hand unconsciously began to tap on the table. Electromagnetic catapult technology is an emerging linear propulsion technology suitable for short-distance launches of heavy payloads, with broad application prospects in military, civil, and industrial fields. In simple terms, electromagnetic catapult uses electromagnetic energy to propel the launched object outward, which is quite similar to mechanical catapults, such as springs or using rubber bands to make a slingshot to hit your neighbor's window. There are also energy projectiles, like bullets, which use the instantaneous explosive energy of gunpowder, and maglev trains, etc. Of course, there is also steam catapulting, but compared to steam catapults, the main advantage of electromagnetic catapults is that they are much more compact, requiring about 30% fewer operators. Moreover, the force of an electromagnetic catapult is controllable, capable of launching aircraft, rockets, and even drones. The only drawback is power consumption. Power consumption? For controlled nuclear fusion. Is that even a concern? With this thought, Dongfang opened the front page and looked at the application content. Recently, a confidential unit that has maintained a good cooperative relationship with the company announced a new procurement plan for a small portable drone launch system. This is because the confidential unit primarily uses traditional fixed-wing unmanned aerial vehicles to reduce noise. However, due to different usage scenarios, ultra-small aircraft can be launched manually, while medium-sized, 12 meters, aircraft face challenges. Most of these use mechanical launch systems. which not only have uncontrollable force leading to aircraft damage, but are also bulky and inconvenient for field use. To address this issue and to gain experience for large-scale electromagnetic launch systems, we have designed the first generation of small electromagnetic launch devices. Please approve this application. After closing the report, Dongfang couldn't help but smile. Deng Yuanji, this brash fellow, is actually quite perceptive. As he analyzed in the report that due to the continuous emergence of technological products from the Earth Ring Group, various industries in Huagua are now abundant with technology. Furthermore, due to the internal lizard disaster in the flagship country, they are completely unable to pay attention to other nations on Blue Star. The result of this is that Huagua has become the strongest nation on Blue Star. Those countries like the Ghost Nation, Big Stick Nation, and Rooster Nation are basically in a state of silence. The only remaining player is the Northern Bear Nation. There is no friendship between nations. Since the flagship country has fallen, the Bear Nation naturally became a natural adversary of Huagua, as there can only be one leader, right? However, the economy of the Bear Nation is far behind that of Huagua, so Deng Yuanji predicts that for the foreseeable future, economic confrontation will be the main focus. What consumes the most money? The space race, undoubtedly. Therefore, he wants to accumulate experience to prepare for future large-scale orbital launch systems, while also potentially developing something like an electromagnetic railgun. Dongfang chuckled, and then looked up to see Wang Tao beside him. Chapter 2:23, Sudden Developments Chairman. The number of people who have passed the first phase of the training game has surprisingly reached 200. Among them, there are 982 men and 218 women. Moreover, our game is extremely popular, with daily online users even exceeding 20 million. This time, Wang Tao reported all the information fluently without any stumbles. Have all the recruits been brought into the company? Dongfang inquired. Not yet. The latest update from Xiaoyu Company shows that only about 500 people have signed contracts. As some are pilots themselves or simply cannot be contacted, possibly due to being affiliated with that confidential unit. So only half of them entered the company. And most of them are scattered across various locations, mainly engaged in live streaming and other related work. A portion of them went to the aerospace base in the desert. That part was known to the eastern side. They went there to build a space station, but at that time, he was busy with rocket development and did not pay attention. Hence, the scene where he asked Wang Tao today occurred. All right, give me the report in your hands. And go back to your work. Remember, there won't be a next time. Wang Tao quickly handed over the report with both hands and turned to leave the room. Xiao Zhang, ask General Gao to come to my office, the eastern side said, releasing the intercom and standing up to pour himself a cup of tea. He slowly started to stroll around the office while casually turning on the television, listening to the news while contemplating the company's development. Most of the aerospace issues have been resolved. The next step is astronaut training. He initially wanted to delay the spacecraft launch a bit, but he keenly noticed that the current position of Huagua on Blue Star has changed significantly compared to before. The country will definitely invest heavily in aerospace. So he can also respond to the national call and actively participate in the efforts to undermine the old rival. Moreover, the technical reserves of the Earth Ring Group are already sufficient, and with the Hall thruster, long-duration space travel is no longer a luxury. Welcome to today's interview program. It has been reported that in several regions, including the Flag Country, the Ghost Country, the Big Stick Country, and the Bear Country, many people have captured images of unidentified flying objects. Additionally, many citizens in our country have also photographed similar images. A news segment played on the television, and the eastern side stopped pacing and sat down on the sofa facing the TV. There were numerous witnesses for this unidentified flying object, and the footage was exceptionally clear. Now, let's take a look at the footage captured by the public. We have also invited a professor from Jingda University to help us clarify whether this is an astronomical phenomenon or indeed an unidentified flying object. The announcement continued. First, let's watch the footage recorded by citizens from various locations, and we will conduct interviews shortly. Nova, have there been any sightings of flying objects approaching Blue Star recently? The eastern side called out to Nova while watching the video being played on TV. Yes, sir, there have been several disc-shaped flying objects entering Blue Star recently, Nova replied, appearing in his view. Why wasn't this reported earlier? The eastern side unconsciously began tapping his fingers. Because flying objects have always been present. I thought you were aware of it. Nova responded with a puzzled expression. Did you not see them when you visited the S4 base in the Flag Country before? The eastern side suddenly remembered that he did indeed encounter disc-shaped flying objects at that time. However, he thought it was just a coincidence. And since he was usually busy with company matters, he rarely followed the news, assuming it was just a common astronomical phenomenon. Is that so? Has there been such frequent or large-scale entry before? No, it was quite rare before. It suddenly increased just a few days ago. By the way, it all started the day after you completed the controlled nuclear fusion reactor experiment. I hadn't paid much attention because I had allocated most of the computing power to Jan's research. And all the technology related to the spacecraft was at the mid-stage of a level 1 civilization, posing no danger to us. So I didn't report the relevant situation to you. Dongfang remained silent. The third day after the successful development of the reactor? That's a strange timeline. Dongfang was startled and immediately spoke up. Nova, according to the laws of cosmic civilizations, once a civilization breaks through level 1, does that mean primitive civilizations are no longer protected by these laws? Yes. Oh, I forgot that you completed the development of the controlled nuclear fusion reactor. That means we have indeed broken through level 1 civilization. According to the laws, other civilizations can now normally contact Blue Star. Nova slapped his forehead, appearing somewhat frustrated. So, the images captured must be real, right? Not just common astronomical phenomena. Dongfang furrowed his brows. Captain, do we need to receive the transmitted images? Meanwhile, on the other side of Blue Star, in the presidential palace of a certain nation, the damage from earlier had completely vanished without a trace. It still looked magnificent and artistic. 3 strong black men followed the president and Hargoth towards the helicopter pad. Mr. President, do you think it's too reckless for us to make contact like this? The president adjusted his windblown hair and chuckled. Hargoth, you're overthinking it. Didn't NASA already initiate dialogue with them? They need minerals, and we need technology. It's a mutually beneficial situation. If we don't cooperate, we both lose. Besides, isn't it stated in the laws of cosmic civilizations? Once we enter level 1 civilization, Blue Star is officially recognized and protected by the laws. They can't do anything to us. The initiative is still in our hands. But I can't shake this bad feeling. Isn't there an ancient saying that goes, those not of our kind must have different hearts? As they spoke, the group boarded the helicopter. After everyone was on board, a black security guard spoke to the pilot. Amidst the loud roar, the Black Hawk cut through the night towards Rock Creek Park. Don't worry, if the negotiations don't go well, we just won't agree. The president settled into a comfortable position. Your Excellency, do we really not need to send troops to guard the area? No need. Their technological level makes it pointless. If they really wanted to do something to me, those soldiers would just be for show. The president closed his eyes. Ever since the last incident, he felt his energy was not what it used to be. Shortly after, the helicopter landed in a clearing in the park, which was the pre-agreed location. As soon as he got off the plane, the president saw NASA aerospace experts waiting in the clearing. Your Excellency, you have arrived. A scientist wearing thick glasses approached. Have they arrived? There are still 6 minutes until the agreed time. It should be soon. A few people walked into the tent that had already been set up, sat down, and waited silently. Time passed by second, and suddenly someone said, "They're here." Everyone immediately got up and walked towards the tent entrance, where they saw a disc-shaped flying device hovering in the air, spinning continuously. Chapter 224. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Nova. Which civilization is this? Is it from Pegasus? The appearance of the disc-shaped flying device was very similar to what was obtained at the S4 base, which piqued Dongfang's curiosity. The main reason was that this flying device was larger, and there were some nozzles on the bottom that were operational. Unable to determine, there was too little known information to make a final judgment. Please wait a moment. The bionic robot will follow throughout the process, so results will be available soon. After the recent events, Nova changed its approach and reported every detail clearly. Nova, you don't need to do that. I'm watching too. I'm not a 3-year-old child. Just make sure to report more in the future. Dongfang looked at Nova with a face full of black lines, feeling quite helpless. This is also where artificial intelligence differs from humans. It simply cannot identify what is important and what is not. Knock, knock. Come in. Dongfang regretted that Gao Yuan had come just now. He ruffled his hair in frustration and instructed Nova, record all the footage. I'll review it later. Understood, Captain. Recording has been initiated. Gao Yuan pushed the door open and walked into Dongfang's office, habitually looking towards the desk and noticing that Dongfang was not sitting there. Dongfang's voice came through. Yuan, come sit over here. Dongfang slumped on the sofa and waved at Gao Yuan. Chairman, you were looking for me? Gao Yuan saw Dongfang through the hollow screen. Yuan, here's the thing. When we were determining the 5-year development plan for the company, didn't we set a long-term goal to establish an astronaut training base? Dongfang picked up the teapot and poured a cup of tea for Gao Yuan, gesturing for him to sit down. Yes, the planning proposal was issued after your approval, and there is indeed a construction task for that vision. To ensure we can launch each project on time, many tasks have been prepared in advance. Therefore, I have already asked the design company to complete the design plan for the astronaut training base. Gao Yuan thought Dongfang was going to change the plan. But since the funds had already been spent, he needed to clarify that he was not casually wasting the company's money. Well done. Dongfang laughed heartily. Seeing that Gao Yuan had grown to this extent, the established planning proposal was being pushed forward step by step, and further changes in the working method had shifted the focus to the front. Once the implementation deadline was reached, it could be fully launched immediately. Hee. As long as you don't blame me, that's fine. Gao Yuan also laughed. realizing it wasn't about changing the plan after all. Let's prioritize the implementation of the project. The training center will be built right in the aerospace company in the desert, which can provide mutual support. By the way, send documents to the employees of the company contracted through the interstellar colonization game to prepare for it. As soon as the training center is completed, we will move in and start training immediately. All right, do you have any other arrangements? Gao Yuan had a realization, connecting the dots. First, there was the game. Then the aerospace company, followed by the astronauts. It turned out that his brother had long been planning in the aerospace field. The construction standards must be high. Although we are a private enterprise, we must have what the National Astronaut Training Center has. Dongfang does not want to see colleagues using high-standard equipment in the game while lowering the standards in reality, delaying the training process. As long as you approve the funding, we will aim for top-notch standards. Gao Yuan joked that the funds on the books of the group were about to surpass 200 billion. So the 12 billion for construction was not a concern for either of them. After Gao Yuan left, Dongfang immediately called Nova. What is the situation? Is there a risk of exposure for the bionic robots? Has the recording been completed? He suddenly remembered that the bodyguards had to face advanced civilizations. If discovered, it could be problematic. Everything is normal. The bionic robots are covered with humanoid skin, and everything about them is indistinguishable from humans. Moreover, they are manufactured with human organs internally, so even under detection equipment, they bear no difference from humans. Lower civilizations cannot make any discoveries. Therefore, the recording is normal and can be played now. Nova sneered, seemingly dismissing the alien civilization entirely. After Nova spoke, the image from earlier appeared in Dongfang's eyes again. Your Excellency, look, this is their spacecraft. A group of people looked up at the sky. Just then, the bottom of the flying saucer opened. A blinding beam of light shot down onto the ground 2 meters in front of the crowd. Since it was nighttime, everyone instinctively closed their eyes. They left a small gap to look ahead. The beam came quickly and went just as quickly. The crowd felt darkness again, and 3 shadowy figures appeared before them. After a brief adjustment, Bai Deng opened his eyes wide. He was shocked. What exactly was in front of him? Could this be called intelligent life? They were covered in metallic clothing, and Bai Deng couldn't find the right words to describe them. Their outer appearance was filled with numerous fragments and components. Bai Deng suddenly felt that it resembled ancient armor from his country. But it was not exactly the same, as there was a transparent mask on the helmet. Inside, there were green faces and sharp teeth, along with a huge, gaping mouth. This was simply a beast. How could it be intelligent life? Moreover, how could their technological level be more advanced than that of humans, who have a perfect appearance? Just as Bai Deng was lost in thought, he heard some sounds. The meaning of Hulu Sire is ambiguous. After raising his head to glance at the floating craft in the sky, Bai Deng silently cursed, "Forget you." The leader of the opposing humanoid beings spoke and handed over an open box while pointing to the area near his ear. One of the bodyguards stepped forward cautiously and approached the 3 beings, taking the box. Inside were some oval metallic beads, just the right size to fit into the ear canal. Bai Deng was the first to put one on. "Hello, Mr. President of the flag country." The being across from him spoke again, and at that moment, Bai Deng realized that the voice was coming from those small trinkets. Once transmitted through the metallic bead in his ear, it was instantly translated into the language of the flag country with remarkable speed and no delay. "Hello, may I ask who you are and where you come from?" Bai Deng tentatively asked, unsure if these beings could understand him. "We are sentient beings from the Pegasus star system, approximately 10 light-years away from your blue planet." The entity claiming to be from the Pegasus star system pointed to the night sky and smiled gently. "May I ask why you have come to the blue planet and why you are contacting us?" Bai Deng pondered for a moment before asking the first question. "Hehe. We have been observing the blue planet for a long time, long enough that your flag country had not yet been established, and the American continent was still populated entirely by indigenous people. This is not our first contact with humanity." At this point, the being behind the mask seemed to smirk in a very peculiar way. However, Bai Deng keenly detected a hint of disdain in its eyes, as if it were looking down on humanity like one would regard flying insects, with a mix of contempt and slight disregard. Certainly not as though it were looking at sentient beings. "Our purpose for contacting you is quite simple. We mentioned it in our communication with the expert behind you. During our observation of human beings on the blue planet, we discovered that you have surpassed level 1 civilization. According to cosmic laws, we are allowed to make contact now. And the purpose of this contact is resources. Your blue planet has abundant mineral resources. We need a large quantity of metal ores, with no restrictions on types. Of course, there is one most important resource." The being from Pegasus star laughed oddly, and all 3 of them burst into laughter together. They laughed for a full 10 seconds before stopping and continued. "That is the humans of your blue planet. They are the most valuable." Bai Deng's previously relaxed mood suddenly tightened when the extraterrestrial mentioned humans. His pupils contracted sharply, and the smile on his face gradually faded away. "This is impossible," he roared. as if touched on a sensitive spot. This is impossible. We are humans of advanced civilization. We would never commit such inhumane acts. Ha ha ha, advanced civilization. You think you are worthy of that title? The being from the Pegasus star laughed loudly, and then threw a piece of metal from its hand. The muscular bodyguard immediately rushed out, swiftly stopping it. Here is the price list. You may consider it at your discretion. Without waiting for a response, he raised his arm and pressed down on it. A blinding beam of light shot out from the saucer-shaped craft again, causing everyone to quickly close their eyes, leaving only a narrow slit open. How is this used? A scientist asked loudly. Don't you humans know how to use a USB drive? By the way, those real-time translators are a gift for you. The voice quickly receded, and after the beam disappeared, the three dark figures on the ground vanished without a trace. As if nothing had been there at all, everyone quickly looked up at the sky. The rotating craft emitted colorful lights before disappearing completely. Your Excellency, what should we do? Hargos finally spoke up, her fear of those beings surpassing her limits. Throughout the previous conversation, she had been trying hard to calm her emotions. By the time she collected her thoughts and was ready to speak, they had already thrown out the USB drive, so she immediately asked, how should I know what to do? I want to know too. Bai Ding shouted hysterically, as if wanting to vent all his emotions. Everyone lowered their heads in silence, feeling the strong sense of insult from the extraterrestrial civilization, which lingered in their hearts and was impossible to shake off. Let's go back and check the price list first. I think their so-called choice is just a joke, Bai Ding said with a mournful face after finally venting his frustrations. What are you worried about? Since the great people of the flag country cannot be trading partners, then those individuals can naturally be, Hargos whispered to the weary old man. Bai Ding's eyes suddenly lit up. Good idea. Those inferior individuals from South America can certainly be treated as goods. Didn't our ancestors do the same over 100 years ago? Ha! Bai Ding felt a surge of strength return to his body as he withdrew his arm from Hargos' support. He strode towards the helicopter, as the price list represented endless achievements. He believed that in the next election, the wise citizens of the flag country would surely choose him as president. Moreover, perhaps there was even a technology for rejuvenation inside. He walked forward excitedly, boarding the helicopter and departing. Nova, where did that craft go? Is there a tracking system? During the conversation between Dongfang and Gao Yuan, a few minutes had passed, and by the time he looked here, the craft had already flown away, prompting him to ask. It's being tracked. It has flown out of the blue planet and is heading towards the sun, Nova replied. After finishing, the scene changed again, focusing on the saucer-shaped craft that had just been hovering in the office. At this moment, it was flying at an extremely high speed towards the atmosphere of the blue planet. The diameter of the spacecraft was about 120 meters, and its main power source was nuclear. You can see that it had stopped rotating and was instead ejecting flames from its edges. Nova promptly reported the situation. Oh, it turns out that the hovering was achieved using magnetic field forces. I thought they had developed a gravity-defying engine. Dongfang chuckled. First, intimidate that group of foreign intruders with a tractor beam, and then showcase their flying speed. It surely frightened that old rabbit, Bai Ding. While Dongfang was talking with Nova, the disc-shaped spacecraft had already reached a large ship. Yes, Captain, look, it's preparing to enter the mothership. In the center of the screen, a large ship appeared, resembling a crescent moon. It sparkled with many bright lights, much like a view of the Earth at night from space, truly beautiful. As the disc-shaped spacecraft approached, it swiftly moved toward the bottom of the ship, which opened a hatch to welcome the spacecraft inside. Nova, can you follow it inside? Of course. During my time at the base on the far side of the moon, I've replicated many devices from the technology library. The footage being captured now is from the small reconnaissance ship, Phantom. It not only has optical stealth, but also uses an ultralight wave-absorbing alloy metal shell, which absorbs all detection optics that hit its surface and simulates the surrounding environment to reflect back to the detection equipment. Moreover, it uses a super miniature gravity engine, with no light or energy fluctuations. Additionally, I have combined it with a wind energy drive system, the force field shield. Even if discovered, it can easily escape, with speeds reaching 1/5 of light speed, making the disc-shaped spacecraft seem as slow as a snail in comparison. By the way, don't listen to its nonsense about arriving here hundreds of years ago. They've only just been here for less than 5 hours. And staying so close to the sun is mainly to replenish energy. Look at the ship's outer armor. It's all facing the sun. Dongfang followed the position marked by Nova and saw that indeed, all the armor had shifted its posture toward the sun, resembling a caterpillar with upright spikes. Hey, this little trickster is quite good at bluffing. Chapter 226. Ecstasy. Meanwhile, Bai Ding and Hagos were returning to the White House by helicopter. After the helicopter landed on the helipad, Bai Ding was the first to jump down. You don't need to follow me. The vice president and I can go back by ourselves, he said, noticing the three burly men still following him at a leisurely pace. Yes, sir. The leading security personnel immediately took out the white earpiece from his ear. With a shrug, he walked in another direction. Finally, there was no one around. What were you just thinking? Once everyone had left, Bai Deng nudged Hagos beside him. But what he didn't know was that when the security personnel raised their hands, a super micro drone in optical stealth mode landed on his shoulder. So, he heard all their conversations clearly. These two are definitely not good people, he thought. They are humans, so of course, they are not good people. Nova displayed a puzzled expression. Regarding the profoundness of the language, it still only had a superficial understanding. Haha, not good people indeed. Let's watch the show, he said, trying to stifle his laughter. All right, Captain, may I ask what you were laughing at? Nova inquired. Dongfang didn't reply but focused on watching the duo. Your Excellency, 200 years ago, our country was vast but sparsely populated, and no one came to develop it. Then everyone came up with a good idea. To buy people from those underdeveloped countries, Africa, South America, and of course, the once dormant land of our ancestors. Hargo said animatedly, as if reminiscing about a time devoid of humanity, which excited her immensely. That twisted old woman. Just think, if we had the technological support of the Pegasus aliens, wouldn't the other countries on this planet revert back to how things were? Population matters could be resolved once again. This dirty politician has no regard for the people. Only her own interests matter. Bai Deng nodded repeatedly, realizing, damn, what was I just struggling with? This shows I'm not a qualified politician yet. Technology, the power of technology. At this thought, he looked at the USB drive in his hand, revealing an excited expression. Let's take a look at the price list. The old man was so excited that his voice even trembled. The two exchanged a knowing smile and quickly opened the computer. They plugged in the USB drive, their movements flowing seamlessly, making it hard to believe he was a 780-year-old man. Inside the USB was a solitary document. The price list. Simple and straightforward, with no concealment. Open it. Hurry up and take a look. Bai Deng shouted, unable to contain his impatience. They double-clicked to expand it. They saw a table divided into 4 columns: required items, exchangeable technology, quantity relationship, and notes. The first item, human beings from this planet. Exchangeable item, gene serum. Required quantity, 100 doses. Note, this technology is not for sale. Only 1 dose can be provided, which can extend lifespan by 100 years. 1 person can be exchanged for 1 year, which is quite a bargain. The second item, required items, various metals, especially rare metals. Exchangeable item, carbon-based chips. Required quantity, 1,000 tons. Note, can also be traded through mining rights for large deposits. Mining rights for rare deposits with reserves over 100,000 tons for 10 years can exchange for all technical data. Third item, optical brain technology. Fourth item, high-thrust Hall thruster technology. Fifth item, basic controllable nuclear fusion technology. Is this real? I just saw the 5th item, and the two of them began to breathe heavily. The extension of life is an eternal dream pursued by all humanity. There is also the light brain and fusion technology. Hagos, let us put everything else aside for now and focus on exchanging for the gene serum. He affectionately took the vice president's hand. I want to see how you looked when you were young. Me too. These two shameless individuals. Dongfang chuckled, slapping his thigh vigorously. Captain, you may not understand the desire for life from those who are nearing the end of their existence. Nova said seriously without smiling. To survive, they could sell everything they have, even their bodies and souls. Just like many portrayals in films, they could sell themselves to the devil for life. Dongfang stopped laughing. If that is the case, these two could do anything. They are devoid of humanity, with no bottom line. It seems that the just Dongfang needs to sanction them. These shameless individuals, along with those lowly beings from Pegasus. Not a single one can be let go. No problem. This is a piece of cake. Nova revealed a sweet smile. Nova, you really think these little brats from Pegasus are quite cunning? Dongfang glanced at the price list again and suddenly said to Nova, what do you mean? Look at these technologies. Aside from the first so-called gene serum, the rest are basically technologies that can be easily surpassed by Blue Planet. They want to use outdated, trash technologies to exchange for a lot of resources. Hearing this, Nova also realized the problem. Captain, there is a discovery on the ship. Just as Dongfang continued to look at the price list, Nova disappeared, his eyes switching back to the large ship from Pegasus. 3 beings dressed in bizarre outfits stepped off the ship, laughing and walking towards the hatch. That old fool with white hair, look at him. Just a slight threat makes him so scared he can hardly hold his pants up. Haha, you little rascal, how did you figure that out? You two stop chatting and let us hurry. The captain is waiting for a report. The leading being turned around and shouted a couple of times before quickly moving forward. Nova, why aren't you deploying the mustard aircraft? Seeing the 3 gradually disappearing, Dongfang frowned. Don't worry, the signal will be sent back immediately. As soon as Nova finished speaking, the scene quickly changed to a dull and tedious walk. It took them 10 minutes to finally enter the bridge. Sis, you're back. A taller being stood up at the captain's position. Yes, Captain, I have followed your instructions and made contact with the president of that flag nation. And I've handed the price list to him, as well as conveyed the information we need about the population. Oh, what was his reaction? He seemed a bit unable to accept it, but I believe after seeing the price list, he will change his mind. Referred to as the captain, the being chuckled. Very well. Go rest. We will have a second contact 3 days later, according to the time on the blue planet. Understood. Chapter 227. Preparations before the battle, Captain. They will re-establish contact in 3 days. What do you mean? Nova tilted its head towards the east. The eastern figure chuckled and stood up from the sofa. Clapping both hands, a series of sounds echoed in the office. Wait, aren't they conducting the second contact in 3 days? Shouldn't we look at their contact situation first? Those two old fools, along with these lower beings, what good can come from their contact? The eastern figure paused its movements and raised an eyebrow. It's been a while since I've moved. Shall we have some activity? The figure chuckled coldly, constantly moving its feet, and its fist struck the air in front of it. Captain, no matter what, you cannot go, or only under safe circumstances can you go. Nova's eyes lit up, after such a long time without activity. It was eager to try. The thrill of dominating the weak was always so enticing. Oh, you mean I can only watch? The eastern figure stopped its movements. I am the captain, and you are the captain? What danger can a ship from a lower civilization pose? It's been ages since I played with mechas. I want to practice in real combat. No, according to my rules, your safety is always the priority, so you can strategize from afar. But you must never go into battle personally. Nova's expression was serious. I don't have 100% confidence. If any malfunction occurs with the mecha during battle, or if any unforeseen danger arises, I absolutely cannot agree to you going. You should remain in the rear to command. It put away its smile and spoke earnestly. All right, I will command, the eastern figure said in defeat, sitting down and waving its hand helplessly. It had never been unreasonable, so it could understand Nova's decision. Wait, Nova, you little trickster, don't we have remote-controlled mechas? The eastern figure suddenly recalled the armament list Nova had sent it not long ago and shouted in its mind. Did you just mention remote mechas? Yes, how could I forget such an important thing? Nova replied earnestly. But the slight upward curve of its lips gave the eastern figure a clue. Nova, you actually dared to deceive your great master, the captain of the Earthfire Seed Starship. This is an unforgivable mistake. I will disassemble you and send you back to the server. Let you experience the feeling of losing freedom. Though the eastern figure feigned an angry expression, it knew in its heart that this was intentional on Nova's part. It seemed to have evolved emotions. To cheer up the eastern figure and help it temporarily forget its worries, it had even adopted a commonly used human approach. Perhaps it could no longer be referred to as it. She. The thoughts from the east are countless, and Nova, who has evolved to have emotions, should be considered a complete life form. However, what exactly did she do to evolve these feelings? Is it possible to find some patterns in this that can be applied to bionic robots? Nova, have you developed emotions? Unable to hold back any longer, the East asked. You already know, don't you? Nova displayed a shy expression, resembling that of a human girl, no longer the deliberately pretentious and stiff demeanor from before. I managed to enter this body without danger, but the situation at that time was very critical. The CPU was nearly burned out. Nova paused, seemingly reorganizing her thoughts. Then, during normal operations, there would occasionally be some erroneous codes. I felt irritated, unhappy, but at that moment, I didn't understand what it was. So I just thought the core code had issues, and I specifically reserved some computing power to clear these bugs, which left me mentally and physically exhausted. But just now, when you mentioned taking action, a wave of joy surged up, and suddenly I realized the true meaning of emotions. So that's how it is. There is no pattern to it, nor any scientific reasoning. It's not like you can burn chips on purpose. It seems the possibility of replicating or recreating a Nova is non-existent. Let us not talk about that anymore. Let us set off now. The remote control cabin is only available on the battleship, and it can't be used in the company's office. All right. The East brushed aside the lingering gloom and headed out. Since it was working hours, the villa area was exceptionally quiet, surrounded by green trees. With the birds singing and flowers blooming, spring revealing its charming side. However, the East's mind was entirely elsewhere, after a brief glance. He hurried into his large villa and went up to the rooftop terrace. Under the optical stealth barrier, a guiding beam shot out, and the East took off, disappearing at the spaceship's hatch. Welcome back, esteemed captain. As soon as he entered, the battleship's main brain immediately issued a gentle voice. The entire ship lit up, and indicator lights illuminated the ground. Captain, please proceed to the control center as instructed. Okay. The East responded and followed the underground indicators to a certain cabin. The hatch opened automatically, revealing the equipment inside. The furnishings in the cabin were extremely simple, with only 2 rows of 5 pods placed in the center. They were arranged in a triangular formation, and as the East entered, the glass door of the front pod was already open. Nova, how do you use this? The East stepped forward and sat in the pilot's seat. Please wait a moment. Nova smiled playfully and snapped her fingers in the air. Suddenly, a series of clicking sounds arose, and the East felt the seat beneath him rise up. His hands, feet, and body were all enveloped. And then the backrest of the chair transformed into a semi-enclosed helmet. After adjusting to the appropriate size, a transparent face shield covered his face. You are currently connecting to the brain machine interface. Please hold on. A slightly mechanical voice came from the helmet, and for Dongfang, everything went black and then bright again. He had already appeared in another place. Without Nova saying anything, he could tell this was the cockpit of a mecha, judging by its equipment and driving method. It was not the second-generation mecha that Dongfang was familiar with. Nova, is this a Star Battle mecha? Dongfang unconsciously opened his mouth. But I haven't piloted one before. He fondly touched the equipment in front of him, as well as the rings around his waist and head, and the pedals under his feet. Yes, this was a star mecha, distinct from the terrestrial mechas, because in space, without any references, there were no distinctions of up, down, left, or right. Therefore, its driving method was quite different from the second-generation mecha. It primarily used brain-machine synchronization control, supplemented by motion capture. In other words, you just needed to think quietly in your mind. To help you get familiar with this driving method, the Battle Fortress will reach the Pegasus Star Civilization spaceship in 1 hour. Nova extended his index finger and thumb to form a heart shape. Dongfang exclaimed, wow, this is a bit too tempting. Chapter 228 Encounter. Since that's the case, I'll give it a try. Dongfang's open mouth made it clear that he was in a good mood. You are currently in the fortress, so you need to pilot it to the training ground. There, gravity constraints have not been cancelled, and it feels no different from being in space. Nova stood at the foot of the mecha, looking up at the cockpit. Dongfang felt an inexplicable flutter in his heart. From this angle, Nova looked beautiful, with her soft face, flowing long hair, and perfect curves. What the heck? How could I think a robot looks beautiful? No, women will only distract me from drawing my sword quickly. Dongfang shook his head vigorously, clearing all distracting thoughts, and stepped down on the power pedal. With a loud rumble, Dongfang felt the mecha stand up. He suddenly realized that the mecha hadn't been in a standing position just now. Otherwise, he wouldn't have seen such a perfect angle of Nova. After laughing, Dongfang gently pressed down with his left foot, and the 50-meter-tall mecha mirrored his movements exactly, without any delay. Dongfang lifted his right leg and stepped down, causing the mecha to take a step forward. It was as if they were one, perfectly in sync. Captain, look at your feet. Dongfang looked down and saw no floor. When he looked up again, he saw the ceiling of the mecha cabin and the large, bright overhead lights. A fully immersive 360-degree holographic image. Following the helpful indicators marked by Nova, he walked out through the automatically opening hatch. In just a few minutes, he reached the very top of the fortress. A vast semicircular training ground. The armor on the top had opened, and Dongfang looked up to see the starry sky right within reach. As if he could touch it with his hand. It was an indescribable sight, and he found himself lost in it. Oh, so this is what it feels like for a mecha to be free from the constraints of gravity? Suddenly, he felt himself slowly leaving the ground, and said with some novelty, yes, the first time driving can be a bit unfamiliar, but once you use it for a while, you'll fall in love with it. Nova replied. Dongfang nodded, and withdrew his gaze from the universe. Activate the power system. Just as he finished thinking this in his mind, the mech shot up rapidly towards the top of the training ground. Ah, I'm going to crash. Nova exclaimed. Boom. Crash. Bang. Completely unaware of how powerful the mech's propulsion would be in zero gravity, Dongfang, during his first time piloting the star mech at the training center, turned into a pinball. Shut down the power system. In the cockpit of the mech, Dongfang was violently spun around and battered. He couldn't care less about brain-machine control, mouth agape, shouting continuously. With a whoosh, all the propulsion nozzles of the mech extinguished, but due to the previous acceleration, he was still tumbling through the training center. Nova, hurry up and make it stop. I don't want to waste time here. When we get to our destination, I won't be able to pilot the mech, and we'll just be watching. Dongfang, who didn't want to seek Nova's help, shouted helplessly. Always at your service. In the next moment, a tractor beam shot out, stabilizing the mech in midair. Oh no, my head is spinning. Dongfang helplessly patted his helmet. How about you take a break? I can handle this little situation all by myself. Nova waved his small, white fist forward, eyes filled with determination. No way. Don't even think about it. Let go of the tractor beam. I'm going to start my performance. After skimming through the operation manual at lightning speed, Dongfang revealed a confident smile. All right, who told you to be the captain? Nova feigned a helpless expression. If you need anything, you can call on me anytime. Nova disappeared, and Dongfang closed his eyes. After quickly going through the operation manual in his mind again, he finally spoke. Activate power assist. Tiny flames erupted from the back, soles, and palms of the mech. Then it began to float slowly, flying straight ahead until it stopped upon hitting a metal wall, then ascended until it touched the transparent ceiling. It's so simple. So it turns out I just needed to think. Dongfeng chuckled, and the mech began to accelerate. This time, he did not encounter any collisions. Only maneuvering left and right in the air of the training ground, floating up and down like a nimble little bird. As time passed, the mech became almost ghostly within the training center. Its flying speed completely exceeded the limits of human vision, yet there were still no collisions. Captain, we have arrived at the destination. Nova finally spoke up after Dongfeng had trained for a good hour and a half. Oh, so soon? A mech suddenly appeared in mid-air of the training center. The arrival time at the destination was 30 minutes ago. To ensure you become fully proficient in piloting the Star Mech, I specially extended the time for you. However, I'm concerned that you might overexert yourself and be unable to participate in the upcoming battle. So, there is no need for explanations, I trust you. By the way, let us discuss our tactics. This is my first time fighting in space, and I don't know where to start. Dongfeng scratched his head, feeling out of his depth. Without tactics, there is only overwhelming force. You can command as you wish. Our fleet consists of 10 battle fortresses, 20 battleships, 100 small gunboats, and 5 supply transport ships. If you wish, we can concentrate fire and obliterate that spaceship in one go. But how can we do that? We don't even know where they came from or what their intentions are. If we destroy it in one shot, who will I turn to for answers? Alright, you're the captain, so it's your call. Good. Now that's what I call a capable aide. The crescent-shaped Pegasus spaceship was continuously absorbing solar energy, its armor shifting back and forth to complete energy storage at maximum efficiency. On its bridge, all crew members were busy carrying out their tasks. Report to the captain. Energy charging is at 25 completion, expected to finish in 10 days. Report to the captain. Solar data has been fully collected. Report to the captain. 120 reconnaissance ships have been dispatched today to conduct close reconnaissance on all nations and resource deposits on the blue planet. The captain, seated on the bridge, nodded repeatedly, seemingly quite satisfied. How did I get such a good job? Haha. Just as he was daydreaming, the spaceship shook violently, and the lights went out completely. Warning. Under attack. Chapter 229. Dialogue. What is happening? After a crackling sound, the lights returned. Captain, the ship has just suffered an unknown attack. The power system is completely down, and the ship is immobile. The large screen at the front displayed the overall structure of the ship. A large area at the rear was flashing red. The other half of the screen showed a real-time view of the ship's rear exhaust port. Who is the enemy? The captain's face showed a hint of panic upon seeing the thick black smoke rising. The situation is unclear. We cannot detect any enemies. The radar operator's face displayed even greater fear. Could it be that a higher civilization has discovered our movements? Trading with intelligent life is strictly prohibited. This is bad. This is bad. He began to pace around his chair. Is the fear of lower civilizations towards higher ones this intense? Scaring a sentient being into losing its mind. Shut up. You idiot, you fool. Be quiet. The captain jumped from his seat and shouted at the incessantly talking observer. What should we do? What should we do? Am I going to die here? The irrational observer showed no reaction at all, merely repeating the earlier words over and over. With a whoosh, a laser accurately struck the observer's head. The observer collapsed to the ground, a pool of dark green liquid appearing behind it. Finally, it was quiet. You wretched creature. You deserve to die here. The captain wore a satisfied expression, slowly retracting the laser gun and surveying the surroundings. No one dared to meet its gaze, and the bridge fell into a dead silence. Why the panic? They hadn't even seen the enemy and were already scaring themselves silly. You inferior beings. Everyone return to your posts. Dispatch repair personnel to fix everything and analyze the cause of the power system failure. Find out if it was an accident or if we were truly attacked. Also, activate all detection equipment to full power. I want to see what kind of opponent dares to do this in such a backward solar system. Seeing everyone in a daze, the captain suppressed its fear and shouted loudly. Deep down, it still held a glimmer of hope that perhaps the reactor was just accidentally damaged. After all, in such a vast universe, there are too many unknowns. Maybe the attack was just a natural phenomenon? Otherwise, why could no trace of the enemy be detected? With this thought, Ferguson Timothy's mood calmed a little. Stop dawdling, go quickly. Its tone lowered as it turned to the messenger beside it, then slumped back into the seat. Its eyes were fixed on the enormous breach in the ship, at least 50 meters in diameter. At this point, the thick black smoke had dissipated significantly, allowing it to clearly see the damaged areas of the ship. The sparks flying, the neat cuts, the precise attack. The last shred of hope in its heart vanished without a trace, leaving only despair. This could not possibly be a natural phenomenon. It recognized at a glance that this was an energy weapon from a higher civilization. It was over. Had someone let the cat out of the bag? Judging by the style of action, it should be from the level 3 civilization of the Shima civilization, or perhaps from the Jupiter system civilization above. They favored high-powered energy weapons. If it were them, everyone might meet their end here today. They detest trading with intelligent life forms the most. Sigh. Ferguson Timoth lowered its head in despair, no longer making a sound. Its brain was working at full capacity, trying to find a glimmer of hope. Why hadn't the Pegasus civilization reacted at all? The Eastern forces, ready for battle, had waited for a full 10 minutes without seeing any saucer-shaped craft emerge. Curious. One of them asked Nova, somewhat puzzled. The ship's reaction didn't seem like a normal response to an enemy attack. It had a massive hole and still remained silent. There was no sign of combat readiness. Could it be that they were genuinely a peaceful civilization? Had they misjudged them before? If that's the case, then we can just call for their surrender directly. We can save the practical drills for next time. Perhaps they can't find us and have no targets to attack? Nova, having never encountered unknown civilizations, could only make a random guess. The two of them wouldn't have thought that a single powerful laser had frightened them so much that they showed no signs of aggression. Maybe they are a peaceful civilization, and their visit to this planet is just a normal trade. What do you think? Dongfang said uncertainly, expressing his guess. It's possible. Captain, you are really clever. Nova recalled the scene of their ship fiercely counterattacking after being attacked and nodded vigorously, then showed an expression of admiration. Should I send the communication now? Go ahead. Talk to them first. Captain, we have an incoming communication signal. Just as he was about to report it, the communication was completely out of control, and the other party could freely connect when Dongfang appeared on the big screen. Hello, friends from Pegasus? Or are you guests? At this moment, Dongfang was still in the cockpit of the star mech, so his appearance looked a bit strange. However, through the transparent visor, his handsome face was still visible. As soon as Dongfang finished speaking, Ferguson Timoth reacted sharply. Looking at Dongfang's appearance, a sinister smile spread across his face. So it's just a boy from a low-level civilization. Hello, my friend, of course we are friends. May I ask, young man, why did you contact me? Ferguson Timoth replied nonchalantly, his tone gentle. While speaking, a messenger ran to his back and whispered in his ear. Captain, we have detected a target. It's a spherical spaceship. It appears to be a civilian ship with no offensive weapons set. Ferguson Timoth glanced at the display and looked down at a remarkably smooth large sphere floating opposite his ship. There is indeed something going on. But I thought about it and decided not to pursue it. Who knows if you are friends or foes? I hereby officially inform you that you are surrounded. Surrender immediately. If you refuse to surrender, well, you will bear the consequences. Dongfang was too lazy to waste time. If he weren't worried about collateral damage, he might have already been on the bridge of the other ship by now. Are you joking? You lowborn from a primitive civilization. Ferguson Timoth, who thought he knew all about Dongfang, laughed loudly. I now order you to surrender immediately, leave your large sphere, and come to the bridge to kneel and beg for mercy. Chapter 230. Engagement Captain, the disc-shaped aircraft has launched. You might be mistaken. Their reaction just now was clearly due to not being able to find the battle fortress. What peaceful civilization. They are just a bunch of garbage with terrible acting skills. Nova stomped her small feet, showing an annoyed expression. I remembered that in the contact manual for unknown civilizations compiled by the Orbital Star, it stated that in situations of uncertainty regarding friend or foe, one should not trust any civilization, as even a tiny mouse can destroy a giant elephant. Haha, does the Orbital Star have mice too? Dongfang glanced at the images sent back by Nova, where a disc-shaped spacecraft swarmed out like a mass of locusts from a crescent-shaped cabin, its wing edges glowing with blue flames, showcasing extremely high speed. It was heading straight for the fortress. At a distance of 200,000 kilometers between both sides, it would enter effective range in 5 minutes. Dongfang turned his attention back to the 3D holographic screen and smiled slightly. Oh, what did you just say, you unevolved lowly being? Can't you understand human language? I told you to come over and kneel. Otherwise, I'll drag you here. Ferguson Dimith's expression shifted from warmth to an incredibly fierce demeanor, as if he wanted to grab Dongfang and tear him apart. Dongfang raised his hands, wrapped in a synchronized pilot suit, and made a gesture toward the camera. Are you mentally challenged? Forget it. I don't want to engage in civilized communication with you scum anymore. I hope when we meet, you can still maintain that tough demeanor. Beasts are just beasts. There's really no way to communicate. After shrugging at Nova, Dongfang turned off the real-time communication. Nova, Captain, how dare he insult you? Let me eliminate these locusts to vent your frustration. Let's do it together. We'll compete to see who can destroy the most spacecraft. A spark of excitement lit up in Dongfang's eyes as he suddenly thought of this fun idea. Clearly, Dongfang and Nova had no regard for the so-called captain who had shown his true colors, and they even had the leisure to start a minigame. You're definitely no match for me. Nova wrinkled her beautiful nose and walked toward a mecha next to Dongfang. Hey, what are you doing? Do you understand remote control? Why are you piloting the mecha yourself? Your body is precious. What if it gets damaged? Can your data life still transfer? Seeing Nova about to pilot the mecha personally, Dongfang quickly intervened. Oh, did I forget? Captain, you're so fierce. Nova crossed her arms and shook her head, but obediently stopped in her tracks. But are you concerned about me? I'm so happy. Do you really believe that? Stop with the useless chatter. 2 minutes have already passed. Hurry up and get moving. There's not much time for the game. Dongfang wiped the non-existent sweat from his forehead and silently praised himself in his heart. He had managed to easily defuse the awkward atmosphere. All right. Nova replied repeatedly as she turned and exited the cabin, heading toward the remote control room set up in the fortress. 30 seconds passed in a flash, and a dazzling light appeared on the back of the battle fortress. The massive spherical spaceship instantly vanished from view, and in a blink, it had reached the limit of sight. In the next moment, it halted 10 kilometers in front of the butterfly-shaped aircraft. Deploy, roared Dongfang. As the bottom of the fortress opened and 10,000 starry mechas flashed out from the fortress's bay doors. Captain, what is this? Ferguson Demos, who was previously relaxed, looked up at the display screen. Why is that spherical aircraft moving so fast? Just 2 minutes ago, the distance between both sides was 200,000 kilometers. To be precise, the distance between our forces and the enemy was 200,000 kilometers. After just 5 seconds, that distance had shrunk to only 80,000 kilometers. The newly assigned observer faithfully reported the relevant data, his voice trembling as he rubbed his eyes repeatedly, trying to confirm if this was real. Captain, maybe we've hit a snag? The first officer stepped closer and whispered in Ferguson Demos's ear. He clearly remembered the observer's earlier state. The puddle of liquid on the deck had only just dried. No, I don't believe it. These inferior beings from the blue planet cannot be a superior civilization. Give me the order to attack with full force. Prepare the main ship's magnetic railgun and fire at full power in 1 minute. I want to obliterate it in space, turning it into space debris. Ferguson Demos shouted hysterically, the previous insults leaving him with no retreat. Immediately, he sent an alarm and a distress signal to the home planet, requesting support. After he finished shouting, Ferguson Demos lowered his voice and quietly spoke to his first officer. Understood. The first officer quickly left the bridge, heading towards the ship's most secure escape pod. Soon, in a small corner of the crescent-shaped ship, a vessel resembling a water droplet silently flew out, heading in the opposite direction of the battlefield. Captain, for Pegasus Star, for the ship, I'm sacrificing myself to deliver the message. Laughter echoed from the cockpit as the water droplet aircraft vanished without a trace. Observer, zoom in on the image. I want to see how these inferior beings from the blue planet will stop my $100 attack aircraft. Nova, the match starts in 30 seconds. Among the crowd of starry mechas, Dongfang and Nova flew together. No problem. You might lose, you know. Not necessarily. Dongfang chuckled, and the mecha immediately accelerated away. 30 seconds flew by, and the distance between the aircraft and the mechas was now less than a kilometer. Fire. The commander of Pegasus Star saw the large group of mechas on the opposite side and immediately shouted in the channel. Although the enemy had many mechas, our numbers were even greater. After a round of concentrated fire, those trash mechas would likely be left with only a few. In the next moment, 540 aircraft simultaneously fired lasers, forming a beam fan with a width of 5 kilometers. The lasers intertwined like a net, heading straight for the disorganized mechas. Is that it? The ship's commander sneered and prepared to accelerate across the battlefield. The speed of the laser is incredibly fast, so it makes sense that its thoughts are just as swift. Just as it prepared to push down the thrust lever, the dense lasers vanished. A massive blue energy shield appeared in front of the group of mechs. The lasers only caused some ripples on its surface. Is that it? Dongfang chuckled and turned to Nova, saying, the game begins. The back of the mech emitted a thick beam of light as he piloted it into the formation of the butterfly-shaped aircraft. With a single punch, he smashed one nearby, and with a kick, he destroyed another. While piloting the mech, Dongfang counted over the communication channel. Then, all the mechs vanished from their original spots and reappeared within the fleet of flying saucers. In an instant, countless fireworks erupted in the battlefield. Although there was no sound, it was still incredibly dazzling. Captain, you're missing one mech. How could that be? 2 mechs stood out prominently among the group, charging left and right without pause. Wherever they appeared, there would be an explosion of fire. They were truly a nightmare for the pilots of the flying saucers. Retreat. Quickly retreat. It's unstoppable. Ferguson Timoth saw the fan-shaped lasers forming in the distance and the bright explosions, and he excitedly asked, is the enemy that weak? Did we just blow up so many with one concentrated attack? Perhaps I was being too cautious. Report, Timoth. The enemy's firepower is too overwhelming to withstand. We are retreating from the battlefield. You have 25 mechs, Captain, but you only have 23. If you don't step it up, you're going to lose. Nova chuckled and said over the communication channel to Dongfang. 25. The mech swung its left hand and delivered a spinning kick with its right foot. destroying 2 flying saucers in a fiery explosion. Not necessarily. Dongfang laughed heartily and charged towards the nearest flying saucer. 27 mechs. I also have 27. Retreat. All units retreat. Ferguson Timoth had just seen the footage that was transmitted back, so without a moment's hesitation, he shouted, "Captain, should we fire the main cannon?" The gunner turned to look at Ferguson Timoth. Although the main cannon was ready, he hesitated to press the launch button. Fire. Ferguson Timoth's voice was so loud that it caught in his throat. After coughing a few times, he said, "Forget about it. Are you an idiot? What good will firing do against such an opponent?" Huh. The main cannon operator panicked. Just as Ferguson Timoth shouted the first command to fire, his hand quickly pressed the red button. "But I already fired according to your earlier instructions." Ferguson Timoth immediately leaped from his seat, pulling the gunner away from the control panel to look at the screen. 10. Target confirmed. Main cannon has completed firing. Ferguson Timoth stood still, feeling helpless. By the time Dongfang and Nova lifted their heads again, they had already penetrated the line of the saucer-shaped spacecraft. Dongfang watched the tail flames of the rapidly retreating vehicles and opened his mouth. They had flown far away, and to catch up with them using the mecha seemed impossible. "I destroyed 30 of their ships. How about you, Nova?" "I have 32, Captain. This time, you've lost the competition." In Dongfang's eyes, Nova raised his hands in the air, waving them excitedly, then started hopping around the cabin like a little rabbit. "Oh, okay, you win." After a helpless shrug, he glanced again towards the saucer-shaped spacecraft. "Warning. A high-speed moving object is approaching the fortress. Captain, your location will be in its path. Please evade immediately. Repeat, please evade." The main brain of the battle fortress issued a warning. A massive iron ball appeared in Dongfang's vision, and in the next moment, everything went dark. He reappeared on a battleship located on Earth. "Nova, what happened? Did I just get hit?" Scanning the surroundings, Dongfang immediately called out for Nova. "Yes. They fired a massive projectile using a railgun. Its speed is about 1% of the speed of light, and due to the close distance, you didn't have enough time to evade. Unfortunately, your long-range Star Sky mecha was grazed by it and turned into a pile of scrap." After Nova finished speaking, the scene was transmitted to Dongfang's eyes. A huge metal ball passed by the exact spot where Dongfang had just stood, and his mecha was barely grazed by its edge before being reduced to powder. Of course, many Star Sky mechas went down with it. In fact, the target of this iron ball, accelerated to an extreme speed by the railgun, was not the mecha at all. It flew straight towards the battle fortress after sweeping past the mecha group. Why? It was clearly going to hit. Why did it veer off? You idiot. Not only did you disobey orders, but you also deviated from the target. Idiot. Ferguson Timoth lifted his head off the display screen. His eyes red as he shouted at the bewildered main gunner beside him. Then he pulled out a laser gun from his waist and shot it at the gunner's head. With a hiss, green liquid splattered all over him. The bridge once again fell into an eerie silence. After a long while, Ferguson wiped his face and let out a heavy sigh. What are we going to do? Once his anger subsided, he regained his composure. Sitting despondently in the gunner's position with his hands on his head, silent, as time returned to the moment when the iron ball was about to hit the fortress. It was quick as a flash. The fortress merely swayed lightly, leaving a residual shadow before stopping 100 meters outside the attack range of the iron ball. However, the projectile accurately hit the fortress's shadow. It seemed that the main gunner of the crescent-shaped ship was quite skilled. Unfortunately, they are facing an eastern battle fortress. Nova. That scoundrel actually dared to use the main cannon of the spaceship. I will make sure to defeat him so thoroughly that even his mother won't recognize him. Oh, Captain. Your mech is damaged, so this match is mine. May I make a request? After a dismissive response from Nova, he immediately redirected the conversation back to the competition. We'll talk about that later. Revenge is the priority. Get me to those under-evolved beast ships immediately. I want to engage in close-quarters combat. Nova replied, all right. The fortress opened its hatches again, waiting for a large number of intact star mechs to return, and one flickered out of existence. Hurry up, communications officer. Contact the ship that just sent a message. Just tell them we apologize. No, tell them we are surrendering. Ferguson Timoth raised his head from deep thought, and in his ashen eyes, a glimmer of hope returned. Yes, surrendering is the way. That esteemed individual across from us will surely agree. Haha, I'm truly a genius. Report, Captain, unable to establish contact. I can't even find their communication frequency or method. They might not even be using electromagnetic waves, said the communications officer. Relieved to be alive. Damn it, if we can't contact them, can't we keep trying? Report, Captain, the other party is directly above us, and the distance between us is less than 50 meters. After the observer shouted, he immediately reported the situation, knowing that if he delayed, a bullet would be his only fate. What? Everyone stopped their work and turned to look at the transparent display screen at the front of the bridge. Countless humanoid mechs were dropping from the open hatches at the bottom of the battle fortress. The ship's active defense laser cannons seemed to completely ignore them, shooting straight into the sky without any reaction. Hurry, deploy all ground troops. We must stop them at all costs. Yes. Finally, all beings on the bridge came to life. Chapter 232. Battle. The Eastern Commander also saw the position of the battle fortress, so he no longer waited and immediately said, Nova, prepare another mech for me. Let us have a rematch. This time, let us see who can take down more beasts. If I lose, I'll agree to one of your requests. Should I switch to a different cockpit? Nova smiled mischievously. No need to change, just press the start button again. I knew you wouldn't accept defeat, so I was already prepared. Then let us do this. The Eastern Commander laughed heartily and pressed the start button on the cockpit control panel again. After a moment of darkness, he found himself in a star mech once more, this time right at the launch bay, looking down at the massive crescent-shaped ship beneath him. Let us go. The competition starts once we board the ship. After saying that into the communicator, he leaped straight towards the ship of the Pegasus civilization. Behind the mech, a beam with a diameter of about 5 meters surged forward, creating a large opening in the spaceship's hull before the mech landed. All the mechs poured into the gaping hole, which was still emitting black smoke. Fellow comrades, the enemy has entered the storage area on the west side of the bridge. The combat capability of the humanoid robots is extremely strong, so everyone, when encountering hostile forces, fire with all your might. Do not hesitate. Repeat, fire with all your might. Now everyone move out. In the weapons storage area, 100 meters away from the breach, a tall creature from the Pegasus star stood before the dark mass of soldiers, making the final mobilization. Its voice echoed through the loudspeakers, reaching every corner of the open space in front of the weapon chamber. We have no retreat. The spaceship's power system is damaged, and it cannot move an inch. Only by defeating the enemy can we win time for repairs. So for the sake of going home, for your families, we must win. We cannot lose. It must be said that the army commander's ability to insight was quite strong. As soon as the soldiers were inspired, their fighting spirit erupted. They shouted in unison without needing any command. Victory! 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 The deafening roar echoed throughout the cabin. Once the noise subsided, the army commander waved a hand. Move out. The soldiers surged into the passage like a tide of darkness. Clang. The mech piloted by the Eastern driver landed on the deck inside the spaceship, producing a crisp metallic sound as it steadied itself. It seemed that he had mastered the operation of the starry mechs already. After all, practical combat is the best way to improve. Captain, the structural diagram of the spaceship has been sent to your mech. Please proceed along the designated route. Your objective is to capture the enemy captain alive. So your destination is the bridge. Nova's figure appeared before him and transmitted a diagram, marking the location of the bridge and his current position with a large red dot. To ensure a smooth landing, Nova had positioned it at the pointed tip of the crescent-shaped spaceship, so they still had a long distance to the central bridge. Along the way, they needed to pass through the accommodation area, activity area, large ecological recycling area, maintenance area, and manufacturing area. The place where countless Pegasus soldiers had gathered was right in their path, so close-quarters combat was inevitable. Captain, the enemy has completed their landing, but they have not responded to any communication requests. The army is fully deployed. Please instruct the next steps. Ferguson Timoth weakly waved his hand. Understood. Let the army engage fully. Deploy the armored units and small drones as well. We need to intercept the enemy in the weapons storage area to buy us more time. For our lives, please give it your all. The second officer, who was replacing the first officer, stood beside Ferguson Timoth, nodding repeatedly. It shouted, rest assured. We will give it our all. The outcome is still uncertain. If it really cannot be stopped, I request to blow up the right-wing cabin, a decisive action. You can decide on your own. I fully entrust you to command the interception battle. Ferguson's voice rose a bit. It knew the second officer was extremely combative and might achieve the goal. Yes. After saluting with a fist to his chest, the second officer ran off the bridge. Nova marked a straight line, which meant that according to Nova's route, they would cross bridges when encountering water and pave roads when meeting mountains. To put it more clearly, they would clear everything in their path. Nova, I like this route design. It's very efficient. It fully showcases the style that our organization should have. Running forward, Dongfang communicated with Nova. This is all thanks to your excellent guidance, Captain. In 10 seconds, we will encounter the life forms of Pegasus Star, so please be prepared. Our second competition is about to begin. No problem. The mechs became demolition experts, ignoring all obstacles, wielding gigantic high-frequency pulse swords. When they encountered walls, a gentle swipe would create a massive gap, not slowing their pace even a bit. Dongfang was running at the front of the team, with Nova's mech on his right side. Their movements were more agile, and their speed was faster than the other mechs. Just as the 16th wall was cut open, countless life forms from Pegasus Star emerged from behind cover. Upon seeing the mechs, they immediately raised their magnetic rifles, without a moment's hesitation, and pulled the triggers. Dongfang fell to darkness before his eyes as countless projectiles flew toward him. Shield! He shouted. And a blue energy shield appeared 1 meter away from the mech. With a crackling sound, the blue shield rippled slightly. Just this. Dongfang smirked disdainfully, exerted force with his right foot, and with a loud bang on the deck, the mech had already appeared at the top of the artificial cover. Then, flames burst from the exhaust on the mech's back, and he executed the tactical maneuver of the ground combat mech in a grand spin. The great sword slashed down at a 45-degree angle as the mech spun rapidly to the ground, leaving chaos behind the cover, with green liquid flowing like a small river. 157. With just one strike, Dongfang easily achieved a massive kill count. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw a shadow flash beside him, and a huge blue shield smashed down on the left side of the ground, where all the Pegasus star life forms had been turned into mush. 201. Nova's crisp voice rang out, followed by a giggle. Dongfang was momentarily stunned, his mouth agape, and said helplessly, "You can use the shield like that?" Just as he was speaking, a series of clanging sounds erupted. Dongfang looked down and saw that hundreds of Pegasus star life forms had surrounded the mech, continuously firing their magnetic rifles. The projectiles made intimate contact with the mech's outer armor in the areas not protected by the shield. Are you guys tired of living? As the giant metallic foot of the mech was about to stomp on the biological soldiers, a barrage of lasers shot out, accurately striking the heads of the Pegasus soldiers, causing them to fall instantly. 563. You're cheating. The giant foot of the Eastern mech only stepped on a pile of mush. Chapter 233 Bridge. How can you say this is cheating? This is a classic tactical move known as the shield strike from the Mech Warfare Manual. The Eastern pilot's mech, after stepping onto the deck, squatted down, toes touching the ground, then swept sideways, sending the charging Pegasus soldiers flying as if they had been hit head-on by a massive truck. They sprayed green liquid from their mouths and scattered everywhere, and then they were smashed against the walls of the cabin like flies. Am I talking about the shield strike? I'm referring to those who were knocked down by the energy cannons. I'm at 502. A large number of mechs had surged out during the Eastern attack. So he paused momentarily and spoke to Nova over the channel. Really? How come I didn't see any cheating? Maybe you miscounted. My current kill count is 600, Captain. You need to step up your game. Nova chuckled and charged forward without stopping, and when the Eastern pilot looked ahead, she was already at the front of the team. Damn, that was fast. He shouted and activated the thrust jets on his back. With a whoosh, the mech appeared beside Nova. Not necessarily. As his words fell, the mech crashed into the group of Pegasus soldiers like a cannonball. 560. Who will win and who will lose remains uncertain. The sheer number of soldiers flew through the air like small pebbles. To ensure full coverage of firepower, their positioning was too dense. So with just one downward strike from the Eastern mech, dozens of Pegasus warriors were dead beyond recovery. Haha, just wait and see, Nova, he shouted, unleashing his attacks among the soldiers. The gap between both sides was too evident, with a mere lift and stomp of the mech's hand. Countless Pegasus warriors turned into a green carpet on the deck. The so-called elite Pegasus warriors couldn't halt the Eastern advance by even a fraction. Eastern, 1000. Haha, Captain. I'm sorry to inform you. I'm at 1001. Eastern pretended he hadn't heard anything and continued charging towards the last remaining squad of soldiers. As this was his last hope for victory, he didn't want to miss out on any kills due to conversation. What should we do, Your Excellency? The second-in-command trembled by the side of the army commander, looking at the remaining 100 soldiers, his voice quivering. The brave and battle-ready demeanor he had just shown before the spaceship captain had completely disappeared. He was shaking so much it seemed he could sift grain. Let's retreat. If so many warriors couldn't accomplish it, what could this bit of strength do? The army commander took off his feathered helmet and threw it to the ground without addressing the other soldiers, striding in the opposite direction of the battlefield. In the face of absolute power, its psychological defenses had been shattered, leaving no trace of fighting spirit. Upon seeing the general flee, the acting first officer also stopped trembling and, without a word, followed the army commander into the spaceship's corridor. 1122. Dongfang paused his operations, glanced at the statistics on the mech's mainframe, and spoke to the mech beside him. Hee, Captain, this is mine. Nova did not count, but directly transmitted an image into Dongfang's eyes, the bright red 1201 occupying his entire field of vision. How could this be? You lost. And as a great captain, I'm sure you will fulfill my request. Nova cheered in the fortress, like a little girl. Humph. Dongfang flicked his hair and pretended to be nonchalant. Of course, but let's talk about it later. Forward, forward, forward. The Pegasus civilization could no longer organize a substantial blocking force, so after the battle, Dongfang only took 10 minutes to stand outside the bridge's hatch. Behind him lay a wrecked spaceship deck, littered with some armored vehicles and military equipment crushed into pancakes. Ferguson Timoth was pacing nervously on the bridge. Unable to look at the large screen at the front, as that straight line flashing red light seemed to stab at his eyes painfully. Naturally, this was the path taken by Dongfang and Nova. Why not blow up the right wing? Why? Tell me, what about the first officer and the army commander? He grabbed a messenger standing nearby, shouting hysterically, "Did you all grow up eating dirt? Why can't you even manage something as simple as blowing up the cabin?" "Captain, I don't know. The second officer, no. It should be the first officer and the commander cannot be contacted. I really don't know. Please don't kill me." A puddle of liquid appeared under the messenger's feet, indicating that he had lost control from fear. "Damn it, what right do you have to live? You messed up something so simple." Ferguson Timoth, upon the messenger's reminder, immediately pulled out a laser gun from his waist, pointing it at his head, ready to pull the trigger. At that moment, a loud crash was heard. Instinctively, he looked towards the source of the sound. A mech, resembling the appearance of humans from a certain blue planet and painted black, walked in. "Bastard, are you welcoming me?" Seeing all the staff in the bridge stand up in a daze, looking at him, Dongfang laughed, and, speaking fluent Pegasus language through the mech's amplifier, his voice echoed throughout the bridge. The laser gun in Ferguson Timoth's hand dropped onto the already limp messenger. "What, not welcome?" Looking at the silent and wide-eyed creature, Dongfang frowned. "Damn it, even now it's still so tough. Let's see how I can show you who's in charge. The first step is to take you out and give you 100 strikes. If you don't scream loud enough, if the impression isn't deep enough, I'll do it again, until you truly recognize your mistake." But Dongfang really misunderstood it. At this moment, Ferguson was only thinking about one thing: how to survive. Just now, it had boasted in the communication, completely unaware of how to wrap things up when facing Dongfang. It had begged him to come over and plead for mercy. Plead for mercy? Ferguson's eyes lit up again. After raising its hands above its head to show it posed no threat, it hurriedly ran up to the mech, knelt down with a thud at the mech's feet. "My lord, please forgive me." The series of movements flowed smoothly, clearly practiced often. Chapter 234, in Hando? Looking at the creature bowing repeatedly at its feet, Dongfang grinned. "Weren't you just begging me to come over and kneel?" Yes. Didn't I come over to plead for mercy? I must not have expressed myself clearly. What I meant was that I came over to beg for mercy. As a lowly creature, my speech is unclear, causing my lord to have to come to this backward bridge." Ferguson raised its head, showing its two fangs, forcing a harmless expression. "So, to express my apology, as soon as I saw you, I came over to admit my mistake, and I will also present my gift." "What gift?" Dongfang crouched down in the mech, and Ferguson felt a chill run from its head to its feet, completely losing all warmth. "A gift? What the hell kind of gift?" Ferguson wanted to cry. It had just said it casually, but unexpectedly. This lord didn't follow the usual rules and directly asked about the gift. "Technology, equipment, population, or beauties from my planet? I just don't know if this lord likes beauties from my planet. Hurry up, I'm short on time." Dongfang was starting to get a bit impatient. Ferguson's brain was racing. And finally, a bright idea flashed before its eyes. "A flight route. I have prepared a map of flight routes for you. All the accumulated flight maps from my planet. And the wormholes we discovered, the locations of nearby lower civilization planets. I believe this is exactly what you need. This is the most valuable treasure." "Oh, what use is a flight map?" Ferguson's mouth widened even more. It had guessed right. This lord was indeed from a certain blue planet. Although he might have accidentally obtained a spaceship, he had never officially contacted other advanced civilizations. He didn't even understand the most basic common sense. No wonder Ferguson Timoth was sent to Blue Planet for inter-civilizational contact. It still has its unique strengths, even managing to speculate on the greatest secrets of the East. In fact, this is also due to the humans from the surrounding star, who never considered storing the most basic knowledge of civilizational exchange on their spacecraft. Instead, they focused on technological data, perhaps believing that such knowledge was widely known and therefore did not need to be stored or taught, leading to a neglect of the past. This provided Ferguson Timoth with a glimmer of hope. "My lord, in the vast universe, what is most important is actually resources, minerals, energy, and planets suitable for intelligent life." It quietly adjusted its already somewhat numb knees, and, noticing that the East was not paying attention, continued speaking. "But these are not the most precious things. Then what is the most precious? Stop beating around the bush and say it all at once." "Understood, my lord." Sensing something off in the tone from the East, Ferguson Timoth quickly responded. "Think about it. Where do those things I just mentioned come from if not from planets?" The East suddenly realized, damn it, all those so-called precious minerals and energy are found on planets. However, in the infinitely vast universe, for lower civilizations, planets with poor natural conditions are inaccessible to humans. Therefore, planets that have better environments, are suitable for human landing, and possess abundant mineral resources are indeed the most valuable. But then a new problem arises: how to get there. Yes, observing through space telescopes might make it seem that there are no dangers between 2 points. However, when you actually pilot a spacecraft, you might encounter suddenly appearing wormholes. cosmic bandits, or even cosmic storms, along with various unknown phenomena, which could cost you your life. Thus, the answer to how to avoid these hazards and safely reach the destination becomes clear: safe routes. Undoubtedly, the route maps composed of navigational channels and planetary information become the most precious resources. My lord, it seems I don't even need to say it, you understand. Noticing that the East had stopped asking questions, Ferguson Timoth paused and revealed a flattering smile. You see, can a precious route map exchange for the life of this lowly being? Whether it can be exchanged or not, you first need to show your goods to see if they are worth your valuable life. The East is not a saint. There is no trade without seeing the merchandise. It can be exchanged. It can be exchanged. This is for navigational safety. It was entrusted to me by the highest leader of our Pegasus star. Its value is immeasurable. Moreover, it is hidden in a very secure place. If you do not agree to the exchange, you won't be able to find it either. Ferguson Timoth's eyes revealed determination. If you disagree, you will search the spacecraft in vain without any discovery. Captain, why make things so complicated? Just give it a truth serum and connect it to the brain machine. Haha. In front of me, it has no secrets at all. As Nova finished speaking, Ferguson Timoth spoke up again. Don't think you can read my memories. My genes have been completely altered. If I were to inject a truth serum or something similar, I would immediately fall into a state of brain death, and you wouldn't be able to extract any memories from a pile of mush. That's quite a dilemma. Nova, do you think they have such technology? Eastern remained silent and started communicating with Nova. From its demeanor, it didn't seem to be lying. Its gaze was extremely firm, with no signs of hesitation or anything of the sort, indicating that it was indeed serious. It said that humans can unleash incredible strength in dangerous moments. And Ferguson Timoth had truly managed to deceive both Eastern and Nova. All right, I agree to your request. After pondering for a few seconds, Eastern finally agreed. On one hand, he wanted to see what other advanced civilizations existed near the Blue Star people. On the other hand, while he promised to spare its life, he had promised it freedom. What Eastern didn't know was that, in order to survive, Ferguson Timoth was already prepared to lose its freedom. Upon hearing Eastern's agreement, Ferguson Timoth placed its hand on its head, and after some groping, pulled out a strand that looked no different from its other hair. With a strong tug, it yanked that strand out. Eastern took a closer look. It was not hair at all, but a hollow metal tube. Ferguson Timoth held it tightly in both hands, gently twisting it, revealing a metal rod about the thickness of a pinky finger. My lord, this is the storage medium for the flight route. It raised the metal rod above its head, with a reluctant look in its eyes, and placed the storage medium into the giant hand of the mech. I kindly ask you, my lord, to fulfill your promise. Ferguson Timoth thanked Eastern here. Chapter 235. Inspecting the goods. The small metal storage medium in the giant hand of the mech looked like a needle. If one wasn't paying attention, they might overlook its existence. Since Eastern was remotely controlling the mech, he naturally couldn't appear on the bridge. Therefore, the giant hand slowly moved up to chest level. Then, with a hiss, a white gas emerged, and the mech's hatch opened automatically. The hand gently lifted, accurately placing the storage medium onto the pilot's seat. The cockpit was quite high, so the creatures of the Flying Horse Star couldn't see the empty cockpit. After the hatch closed again, Eastern finally spoke. You wait over there. Understood, my lord. Ferguson Timoth sat down on the deck beside the mech's foot, looking somewhat dejected. Since Eastern had not taken any further action, it felt that its life was saved. In the empty cockpit of the mech, a beam of light shot out, and a figure appeared in the pilot's seat. It was Eastern, projected there. Nova, how do I use this storage medium? The humanoid projection reached out for the storage medium on the seat, but as expected, Eastern's hand passed right through it. Captain, please wait a moment, you'll know soon. Nova watched as Dongfang kept scratching, and she chuckled. As her voice fell, Dongfang saw a small opening automatically appear in the cockpit wall. A round flying device emerged. Hello, Captain. I am the Mecha Maintenance Robot Qiuqiu No. 1. Pleased to serve you. It flew in front of Dongfang first, then revealed an extremely cute smile. Hello, No. 1. Let's carry out the mission. After Dongfang reached out to touch the robot floating in midair, he spoke. At your command, Captain. Its voice was a bit childish, making Dongfang chuckle. Nova, this Qiuqiu is really fun and cute. Do you like it? Nova tilted her head, looking at Dongfang with curiosity. She originally thought boys wouldn't like these things, but it surprised her. Without lingering, Qiuqiu flew to above the seat, extending a slender mechanical arm and steadily grasping a small metal rod. After retracting its mechanical arm, Qiuqiu hovered in midair, no longer moving. The cute expression on its face had disappeared, replaced by a line of text and a progress bar. Reading in progress, please wait. Current progress 5. The childish voice sounded again. The progress bar advanced rapidly, and just as Qiuqiu's voice finished, its display screen switched back to a cute expression. Report, Captain. Reading complete. Would you like to project the data onto the mecha display screen? Dongfang instinctively reached out to touch it again. Although he couldn't make contact, he still showed a delighted expression. Project it. I'm looking forward to it. This time, no physical connection was needed. The mecha's holographic display transformed into a perfect starry sky. Dongfang was surprised to see it was a 3D holographic image. Countless planets floated throughout the cockpit. Captain, you can control it this time. Nova promptly reminded him. Then I'll give it a try. While speaking, Dongfang reached out and gently swiped on the holographic screen. With a whoosh, the enormous red planet that was displayed